it is a Victory Monday on 580 Sports Talk. The Kansas City Chiefs dominating the Miami Dolphins this weekend, and we are here to break it all down for you. Full show, 2 to 6. All the great stuff we saw from the Chiefs, all the miserable, pathetic effort from the Miami Dolphins. We're going to break it all down. We're going to break down, in fact, all of Super Wild Card Weekend, and what a weekend it was. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give you, because it was not just a great day for the Chiefs Kingdom, for Chiefs fans, for us on 580 Sports Talk, but I would be remiss if I didn't give you, after what we saw yesterday afternoon, a quick, how about them Cowboys? Am I right? They walked into Yo Trap and they took over Yo Trap. Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott. Oh, it felt good. We're feeling great on this Monday afternoon. We're going to talk all about it. CJ Stroud going crazy. The Joe Flacco experience, I think, has probably come to an end for good. Get some Pitbull in here. That's what we love to hear.
I felt it suited the mood.
Had a great
your
game.
body if it's not frozen.
A great game to close off Sunday night. We got Lions-Rams was just as good as we expected it to be. They were chanting Jared Goff's name before he even took the field. That's how charged up that place was. I'm pretty sure most Lions fans weren't even fully sold on Jared Goff until they won last night. What a day of football it was yesterday. What a day on Saturday. We've got 2 more games coming up today. Obviously, we're here. We're not going to have Steelers versus Bills for you. We'll keep you updated throughout the day. We do have on our airwaves Buccaneers versus Eagles tonight. We'll get you ready for that game, ready for the first game of the day. Matt Verderame is going to join us coming up this hour. Normally joins us in the 3 o'clock hour on Mondays, but as you may have noticed, there's a game on this afternoon. So Matt's going to join us a little bit before kickoff, bottom half of this 2 o'clock hour today. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. We've got so much to get to over the course of the show today, and we would love for you to be a part of it. Text line number 785-272-9429. YouTube comment section, the name of our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Go check it out, subscribe, watch along, drop us a line in the comment section. We would love to know your thoughts on anything we are talking about on the program today. We've got tons of NFL wildcard weekend to get to. We will also, we'll get to how cold it was on Saturday night. It wasn't quite as cold when I got into my car to leave the Washburn game on Saturday in Jefferson City. And as I'm driving back toward home, I see the temperature on the dash in the car continue to go down. And by the time I got to wherever I was west of Sedalia, Missouri, when the Chiefs game was just about to start and I could pick up the radio broadcast, it's like, oh boy, this says -3 in the car. I can only imagine what it is like outside right now. And the pictures and videos of beverages freezing and Andy Reid's mustache getting frozen, just incredible scenes. And the Chiefs battered the Dolphins just the way we expected that they would. So we'll break it all down here in just a moment. We got some college hoops to get to as well. We'll touch on that in the 4 o'clock hour today. KU beats Oklahoma pretty decisively. Dan was there for that game at Allen Fieldhouse. K-State, somewhat controversially, loses a low-scoring game to Texas Tech. We'll break that down. We've got What Is Wrong With You, our 580 Sports Talk headlines, including KU fans, KU football fans. How are you feeling yesterday around 1:30?
That was a scary 12 hours for, I think, all kinds of football fans in the Sunflower State when it became clear that Washington had a vacancy and that it might have appealed to certain degrees to the gentlemen helming football programs in Manhattan and Lawrence, at least for a little bit. But that's all been addressed.
Yes. So take a deep breath. Feel good about it, KU fans, K-State fans. We'll talk about the coaching move on the West Coast coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. We'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All that coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. Before we get to Chiefs Dolphins, by the way, I do want to tell you, we've got a big event coming up on Friday this week. We'll be on the air from 2 until 4. We're going off at 4 o'clock because we've got the Topeka Invitational Tournament in action. Dan will be on the call for the TIT Thursday and Friday. But Friday, from 2 until 4, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook. That is right. Prairie Band Casino, Firekeeper Golf Course. They are adding the Prairie Band Sportsbook coming up on Friday. They're cutting the ribbon that day, and we will be broadcasting live from the sportsbook on opening day. We are so jacked up to be there. It is the only locally owned sportsbook in the state, which is a big, big deal. Our friends at Prairie Band have done an incredible job getting it ready. Got a little sneak peek last week. I was up there, got to look in the glass, see it. It looks awesome. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's right next to the Three Fire Steakhouse, so you can get a great meal while you go in, place a few bets. They've got all sorts of brand new technology. They're bring your own bet technology. It's only getting better and better. They're going to have an app out at some point, hopefully as soon as they can. First class amenities too. Firekeeper Golf Course right there. Maybe can't play Firekeeper right now, but it is on the grounds, obviously. Got a tour of the whole facility, the spa, the outdoor pool, everything. It is just absolutely incredible. 10 betting kiosks to place your bets in person. They've got big, nice leather chairs there, TVs all over the walls to check it out. We can't wait to be there at Prairie Band coming up on Friday from 2 until 4 for the opening of the Prairie Band Sportsbook. So we would love for you to join us up there coming up on Friday. On Saturday this weekend, though, it was all about the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was all about being the tougher team, which we talked about, and I really emphasized on Friday. That was one of my keys to the game. You just got to be tougher than the Dolphins, and the Chiefs were. But you know what else the Chiefs were relative to the Dolphins on Saturday night, Dan? They were just better. Yeah. That was one of the best games, the best 60 minutes we have seen from the Chiefs all year, with my only complaint again being I'd like to see a finished drives a little bit better. But other than that, this team went out there and Patrick Mahomes was really good when it was hard to throw the ball. Rashee Rice, if he didn't already have his breakout game, he truly had for the entire country, the entire NFL watching populace. He had his breakout game where you saw him go for 130 and a touchdown, and oh shoot. Although the only negatives then it made people say, I thought Patrick Mahomes didn't have help this year. What do you mean? Look at this guy. Look at number 4. Well, okay, let's get some context mixed in here too. But he was awesome. Pacheco maybe wasn't efficient, 24 carries for 89 yards.
Set the tone.
Set the tone.
He was really good early, and it set a physical tone.
Yep.
On offense up front for the Chiefs. That was what you were hoping that they would do offensively, and that's exactly what he did. And, of course, he kind of finished the game off in the fourth quarter with his touchdown run.
And just, would you want to tackle that guy out there in that weather?
I wouldn't want to tackle anybody in that weather. Be completely honest with you, especially not that guy.
That's something you share in common with Miami Dolphins. So how about that? You could have started for them this weekend. Any of us could have. We could have put in that same kind of effort.
I would have made as much of an impact as any of the street free agents they brought in.
There was one truly negative play for the Chiefs on either side. Because, yeah, were there a couple moments offensively where you could have done some different things with the play calling? Sure.
Yeah, they had bat 1,000. It wasn't a double plus, extra credit, see me after class. No, it wasn't that, but it was a championship caliber 60. I don't think there's any question about that.
No doubt about it, especially because to 2 degrees here, it was the Chiefs' own, I don't know about greatness in the game, but it was their own high quality play combined with the fact, and it was partially because of the Chiefs' defense, the Dolphins' offense was just miserable. And they've been bad for 3 straight games now. Arguably the 3 best teams they faced all year. Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, back to back to back. They got embarrassed in all of them. And that Miami franchise, they've got to come up with some answers now at their quarterback spot, maybe for their head coaching spot, and certainly their entire roster, because they've got an old roster, a bunch of dudes who are hitting free agency, and 2 years in a row where it became clear once you figured them out midway or late in the season and you had answers for them, they didn't have new questions. They did not have new ways to try to confuse you. It was the same old, same old. It was telegraphed. It was obvious. It was clear as day. And the Chiefs were able to take advantage of it. The one major negative was the 53-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill. And you knew at some point he was going to make a play. Other than that, Dan, how many total yards did Tyreek Hill have as a receiver in the game?
Oh, gosh, it was less than 20, wasn't it?
He finished the game with, I believe, 62 receiving yards.
So he just had that other 9-yard catch right before the 53-yarder? Gosh, that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he had a couple of catches. He had one catch, for example, where he got blasted. If jacked up was still a thing, tonight before Eagles-Buccaneers, final part of the segment would be the whole crew going, Tyreek Hill, you got jacked up, because Trent McDuffie just ran into him like a truck.
That's one of those you watch on TV and you wince in anticipation because you can see it coming and you know somebody is about to feel the pain. And you kind of tense your body up on the couch if you're watching that one happen live, because McDuffie had a bead on that play the whole entire way and laid the lumber. And if there was a play that I think was emblematic of the entire game, it was probably that. It was not just the physicality where the Chiefs were better. We suspected that would be the case. I said on Friday's show, over the course of 60 minutes, the fact that the Chiefs are a fresher team and that the Dolphins are a banged up team, that's going to show. Over the course of the 60 minutes, I felt like that did reveal itself. That one team was fired up. They were excited to be playing in that weather. They were rested. They were geared up. They know this is their time of year where they crank it up and they turn it on. And you had a Dolphins team that came in the walking wounded, and after they went down by 2 scores, just looked like they wanted to get back where it was sunny and warm as soon as they possibly could. It wasn't just that, though, on that play that McDuffie made. It was what this Chiefs defense does. We discussed this on the reaction video on Saturday night, which, by the way, if you want to see what our instant reaction to the Chiefs victory was, or any of our video content, again, check us out on the YouTube page. 580 Sports Talk is the channel on YouTube. I didn't feel as though this was a triumph of game planning or a triumph of scheme necessarily for the Chiefs. Like, there are times when, and I think you see this maybe more offensively than defensively, but it does go both ways, where a team comes out and you just say, man, they had the perfect game plan. They absolutely won this game on the install, Monday to Friday, putting in what it was that they wanted to do, and they absolutely confused their opponent, and that's why they won. The Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo are capable of doing that. I didn't think Saturday night was a triumph of scheme. I just think that's a really good defense doing what it was coached to do. Winning one-on-ones in the trenches, winning one-on-ones in the secondary, being in the right place to make plays, communicating and being on your job, in your assignment every single time. There was maybe one coverage bust in the entire game that I can think of. That's it. That's all I got for you. They were on point. They were in tune on the defensive side. That's what great defenses do. That's why this defense, despite the fact that they don't turn you over a bunch, they still are able to play at this high a level because they always find themselves in the right place to make a play. And where was Trent McDuffie on that play where he sent Tyreek Hill packing back to Cancun, jammed him back to Cancun, as Tyreek Hill himself said on Twitter today? He was in the right place. And that's what this defense does. That's why it's a championship level defense. They know where their teammates are going to be. They execute the game plan. They win one-on-one, and they bring the lumber. Everything about the Chiefs' defensive excellence, I think, was encapsulated on that one play. We've been saying since about mid-season, this is a year, if the Chiefs are going to make a run, they're going to do it on the back of their defense. Well, step one, complete on the back of their defense.
Joe Shad, who covers the Miami Dolphins for the Palm Beach Post, he was whining and complaining and crying all week about how cold it was going to be. And he made some comment last night. It was yesterday afternoon. It was during the Packer game. And he said something about how, wow, isn't it nice to watch two teams who can actually run their offenses because they're playing indoors and the game isn't completely hampered by the weather? And then followed it up with another tweet that said #build domes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. During that game that was freezing cold in Kansas City on Saturday night, I don't really think the Chiefs had any problem running their offense. In fact, it seemed to go quite smoothly, all things considered.
Mahomes didn't have a great passer rating, but all of the advanced numbers said he was really, really excellent. Other than a couple of drops by Kelsey, the Chiefs felt like they were pretty on point on offense. Could use maybe a little work in the red zone, but they scored 26 points. That's a pretty good number. That would be a good number in 80-degree weather. Honestly, it's a good enough number for the Chiefs. If they scored exactly 26 points, if you were offered that as a Chiefs fan right now, 26 points, 2 touchdowns, 4 field goals. If you were offered 26 points in a game in the next 3, you would take it because you would win the Super Bowl. That is a number at which the Chiefs can win every game from here on out. And they did that in negative 27-degree wind chill and didn't look like they were making too hard a time of it.
No. I mean, it was, you mentioned the advanced stats. I've got them up in a couple of them up in front of me. QBR, Patrick Mahomes, 88.3. That's based out of 100. That's an incredible day, even if his passer rating was somewhere in the low 80s. Expected points added. He was tremendous in the game. Completion percentage relative to expectation, maybe a little bit lower. Guess what? That's because he was throwing a bowling ball during the game. That's why that's a little bit lower. It was just such a, ironically, given, again, how cold it was, a crisp effort by Mahomes and this entire offense and the defense, too. And I don't mean to focus completely on the offensive side of things, but the defense is a known quantity at this point. How many times this entire year can you legitimately say the defense played a bad game? There's one that comes to mind. It was the Packer game. Yeah. And we have since found out that they were apparently going up against an elite quarterback, and no one knew it.
On the road with the third string green dot.
Yeah.
Like the center of the connectivity was as altered as it would be all season long. Yeah, that's their one bad game, and they still only gave up 27.
And everything else has been, at bare minimum, yeah, that was a solid game. Like everything up and down, you say, yeah, that was a solid game. They did bare minimum enough for you to win in every single game. That was the same here. To me, this postseason is far more about the offense, and it's about, can you hit your stride at the right time? And I think we, and certainly I, not to speak for you entirely, Dan, concerned about that going into the playoffs, that we know the pieces are there. We know the head coach is in place to get it done in the big moments, but they haven't shown that consistently for long stretches all year. Can they turn it on here? This was a great example. This was a great reason to feel that way. And again, reminiscent of week 9, the game in Germany. Chiefs come out, hot knife through butter. I mean, it was cruise right down the field. And you knew from the very beginning, given all of the other everything going into this game, the weather, the fact that the Dolphins have been terrible the last couple of weeks, the fact that they are awful in weather like that, the Chiefs feeling like they have something to prove, the Dolphins feeling like they can't get to vacation soon enough. Once the Chiefs put that drive together, and I was listening to the radio broadcast at the time, and once I heard that first Kansas City from Mitch, like, it was over. That there was no way the Chiefs were going to end up losing that game, barring calamity from the offense, and we didn't get that. That was an above average offensive performance, and that's all it takes. And we say so often that in the NFL, a lot of times you win games. Hell, this was Jake's whole reasoning why he never even thought Bill Belichick was all that great. He just thought every other coach sucked, was that some teams just take advantage of other teams' mistakes more than they make their own. And if you do that, you're going to win more often than not. The Dolphins weren't ready for this game. The Chiefs were. And that was the ball game. Also, it helps that Tua Tagovailoa was terrible. Again, this has been a really bad last month for Tua guys out there and Tua non, but he sucked. He was not good. He was not ready for the moment. I don't think Mike McDaniel was ready for the moment. The Chiefs might not have, put together the most sterling game plan, X's and O's scheme of all time. It was still miles better than whatever the hell Miami was trying to run. Just complete stubbornness to do nothing to change your approach going into a very unique set of circumstances. And that's a big reason why the Chiefs come out of this looking like kings, because they played well and they made their opponents look like children.
Yeah, the game never felt competitive after the Chiefs kicked that field goal to go up 9 into half. And I know if you were watching it, you probably felt like, man, some missed opportunities. The Dolphins hit on one big play to score their touchdown. This doesn't really feel comfortable. Nah, man, it was over. It was over at 16-7. It was probably over by the numbers, it was over at 13-7. It was over because the Dolphins really couldn't do anything offensively. The running game in the cold, they didn't have anything really that confused the Chiefs. There was nothing new. There was nothing cutting edge. The Chiefs took away the middle of the field. That's where the Dolphins love to throw the ball. They took away Tua's first read, and every single time when Tua got out of his first read, the resulting throw was not a good one. The resulting play, the resulting gain was not sufficient. That game was over at halftime. It never felt like Miami was going to be capable of driving the ball down the field. Like they were going to have to score. Essentially, even their touchdown was an accident. That was an underthrown ball, and Trent McDuffie couldn't change direction fast enough. And, at that point, I'm sure his coach is probably telling him, look, if you're falling down like that, just make sure you get a PI. We'll live with PI instead of a touchdown the next time. We'll live with the spot foul. Again, it's not as though the Chiefs played an A+ 100 out of 100 football game. There were mistakes. They did lose a touchdown on a block in the back, which I thought was a harsh flag. They did have a bad snap that killed a red zone drive. Travis Kelce dropped what might have been a touchdown too. And if those 3 plays are different, this maybe is a 38-7 football game. This maybe is an even bigger blowout. But as you said, above average offensively. They are moving the ball at will between the 20s. They are confident because they have shortened and simplified their offense. We got 3 dudes. Let's make sure they touch the ball way more often than anybody else. Pacheco's a dude. Rashi's a dude. Kelsey's a dude. We're going to get the ball to those 3 guys almost exclusively, and we're going to run our offense through those 3. It's like a basketball team saying, you know what? Now we're in the playoffs. We're not going to let our power forward shoot threes. Like we're done with that. We're going to simplify. We're going to get our offense down to brass tacks, and we're just going to make sure our best players are touching the ball way more often than anyone else. And it's working. It's really working. Do they have to figure some things out in the red zone? Sure. If they'd been a little better in the red zone, they would have scored 30 instead of 26. And again, 26. They get to the mid-20s, they're going to win the Super Bowl. They get in the mid-20s 3 more times, they will win the Super Bowl.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. By the way, so how about this? Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, the 2 of them combined for 22 targets, to reemphasize your point here. The group of Noah Gray, Justin Watson, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Richie James, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mecole Hardman Jr., sorry, I'm reading the box score. I have the junior on there. And Isaiah Pacheco. How many targets did they combine for?
Well, let's see. The other 2 had 22, 21.
Do
you throw 43 passes or 41 passes?
41, but that included things like throwaways and whatnot where there's no one targeted.
Oh, okay. So like that group, maybe like 15, 16?
12.
Oh, gosh.
The Chiefs.
More throwaways than I thought.
The Chiefs found what worked. Exactly to your point. Isaiah Pacheco is a guy. 24 carries, if I'm not mistaken, is the most or the second most he's ever had in a game in his entire career. They did it. They used him.
Yeah.
They used him as the hammer, and they beat him down at the end of the game.
They established it.
Yes, they absolutely established it. Rashee Rice is wide receiver 1 and is wide receiver 1 for the foreseeable future for this franchise. I said this last night on the Instant Reaction show. If Travis Kelce is option 2, that takes this offense now to a new level because he's going to decline because he's getting older. But if you now have him as your secondary weapon where you're going to end up with him in more favorable matchups more often, he's going to be an all-pro again next year.
You saw what happened. He was a chain mover, 7 for 71, and a couple of drops that are really out of character for him. So you saw what can happen when there is another passing option that just takes a little bit of the gravity off of 87.
Awesome game for the Chiefs overall. We'd love to get your thoughts on what we saw on Saturday night in this Chiefs game. Hit us up on the text line 785-272-9429 or check us out on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. We'd love for you to go check it out. Subscribe. You can watch today's live stream. You can also go check out last night's Instant Reaction show. We're talking more Chiefs coming up after this. All the other stuff that went into Wild Card Weekend in Kansas City. Plus, Matt Verderame will join us later this hour. It's Victory Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started on 580 Sports Talk today. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on MLK Day today, a very, very important American holiday. We have a text in from the 785 that says, you guys nailed it. Something I don't think is being talked about enough, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but McDaniel looked like he was the most impacted by the cold. He looked like a guy who wanted to be anywhere but on the sidelines at Arrowhead Saturday. Like you said, he didn't want to change his game plan, but genuinely looked like he didn't want to be there. Usually a high energy guy. Saw none of that on Saturday. The McVay followed Shanahan, but all these guys are tied to McVay. But the Shanahan tree, the play callers, there was a great podcast series about them that The Athletic did this offseason. Awesome stuff into where Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, all these guys, their backgrounds, how they became part of this, how they got involved with Mike Shanahan's scheme as assistant coaches and all that. One of the things that is a staple for all of them, they're all so stubborn, just extremely. And I think to a degree you have to be. It's like it's like a stand-up comedian. Even if you're one of the guys who's super self-deprecating, like you have to have an ego. Your entire career is based on, I know I'm funny. Like if you're a play caller and your whole identity is play caller, you have to be stubborn because it's my system. It's gotten me here. We're going to stick with it. It's what cost Kyle Shanahan a Super Bowl in Atlanta and possibly in San Francisco as a head coach. It's what led to Sean McVay being bizarrely conservative last night and punting the ball away with 4 minutes left while losing. I think it's hurt Matt LaFleur at times. He had to act a little differently because he was also going up again or working with a quarterback who was maybe the biggest ego in the NFL and Aaron Rodgers for a few years. And I think it cost Mike McDaniel. They were going to lose anyway, if we're being completely honest, but it led to them looking completely lost on offense, just the unwillingness to change anything at all. Whereas, comparison, Andy Reid, all year, please let Isaiah Pacheco carry the ball more than 12 times. Playoff game, cold weather, 24 times. Look what he did in the game.
Yeah, one team embraced the elements. The Chiefs embraced the elements. The Chiefs fans, the crowd at Arrowhead Stadium embraced the elements. It was a bit of a later arriving crowd. I know there was some bubbling concern there as it got close to kickoff. Man, is this place going to fill in? Are people really going to want to buy those secondary market tickets, even with the prices dropping the way they did, and fill that place in? They filled it in. They filled it in. They made some noise. There were a lot of people there, as we kind of suspected, that maybe haven't been able to go to a Chiefs playoff game in the Mahomes era and might, like, financially not be able to do it again. Went out and they made it happen in the cold, and they stood on their cardboard and they made noise. And that place, I think, was part of the reason. The atmosphere was something that the Chiefs embraced. The cold, the crowd, all of that, in a way that the Dolphins absolutely were not prepared to do.
Yeah.
For those who weren't there, how was Peacock?
A lot of people were really mad. I was talking to my parents yesterday, and my mom had not seen the score of the game. And I was like, oh, yeah, the Chiefs killed them. It wasn't close. And she was like, well, we would have liked to have watched, but we weren't paying for it. And we said on Friday, we had tons of people who had called us, had emailed us, had people who had texted me and said, are you guys carrying the game? Because I'm not paying for Peacock, or I'm not even going to a bar because I don't want to support this at all. And look, since I live in the Kansas City market, technically I watched it on KSHB TV, and the broadcast was fine.
Curious if you did subscribe to it, watch the game, had to watch it on Peacock. 785-272-9429 is the text line, and we'll take your answers throughout the show. But curious, how did you watch it? Did you subscribe? Have you already canceled your subscription? Did you go with like a Stream East or a Meth Streams or something along those lines? Did you go somebody else's house and watch it? Did you just listen to it here on 580 WIBW? How did you consume the Chiefs game? And if you did go to Peacock, so I pay for it. My wife and I subscribe to it. They got a couple of good original shows that we've enjoyed. I watched the Premier League. They got the Premier League on Peacock. I know there are other reasons, like people like to watch it for, Big Ten athletics or WWE Network or whatever it might be, that you might already have had it. But we already had it. And so my in-laws and my parents also have my password, so they were all able to watch it. Peacock lets you go 3 streams at a time. We looked it up. We made sure. So everybody got to watch connected to me, which I was glad for. My dad sends me a text 10 minutes before kickoff, said they're making people pay to listen to Jason Garrett. He's the worst. Man, the end of the first half, it's a 6-point game, 31 seconds, 2 timeouts. And he says, yeah, if I were the Dolphins, I'd probably kneel on the ball here. Like, wow, I can't believe you're unemployed as a coach. That's amazing.
I saw someone I know from Packers Twitter say during the game, it was right after I had gotten home. So I had only been listening to the radio at this point, but I opened my phone, I opened up Twitter, and they had said, I think NBC's found their Collinsworth replacement. Garrett's really good at this. 4 minutes and 40 replies later, they added a new tweet that said, never mind, you guys effing hate this guy. Yeah, buddy, it ain't good.
No, he stinks. He's really bad.
I'm glad they had Tirico call the game for play-by-play. I thought it was going to be the younger Collinsworth, which would have made me watch on mute. I can't.
No, Jack Collinsworth
I can't
stinks.
do it. He's so bad.
But like, hopefully, if you did indeed stream it, you got a good stream. We didn't have any buffering issues. Like, Peacock's picture quality of all of the live game streams, I think, is the best. I think it's better picture quality than ESPN Plus or like the only thing,
that's true.
The only thing that might be better is the Apple TV Plus when they do the Major League Baseball games. But it's really good picture quality. Like, if that matters to you, the audio quality is really good. It's a good broadcast. And they said 23 million people watched the game while they were patting themselves on the back on last night's NBC broadcast. That includes the local markets, Miami and Kansas City, who were not streaming it. But still, that streaming number is going to be around 18 million people. So get ready for more of this.
We have a texter here from the 785, and it's to the point you just made, who said, Peacock, I got sick of the buffering in the second half and went to bed. Well, luckily, our text from the 785 did not miss anything competitive in the game. But that's the part of the problem here is, like, since we use YouTube TV in our house, like, everything is streamed. We always have to have a good internet connection. And we do, thankfully. If it's cold and your connection's not great, if there's weather, if you just don't have, top speed gigabit internet all the time or whatever anyway, this doesn't always work. And that's what makes this so challenging for so many people is, well, hey, you're actively not only making it harder for me to go watch the game and, go seek it out, but it's actually legitimately harder to just watch the game sometimes.
Yeah. Steven in the YouTube comments says he shelled out the $5.99 for it, said it was very good coverage. Again, that's the risk you run. You don't have if you don't have enough internet, or so you're in a place where you can't get enough internet to have a totally clean streaming experience. Again, it's a place of privilege, and it shouldn't be a place of privilege to talk about I watched a playoff football game, but that's where we're at.
They paid $110 million for that. If they're going to pony that up again, the NFL's not going to say no. Right? Let's leave it at that. We have to get to a break. Matt Verderame is joining us next on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us a little bit earlier than normal because we've got a game coming up in less than an hour. His name is Matt Verderame. He covers all things National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. Go check out his work there. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well, where his handle is at Matt Verderame. Matt, we will get to the Chiefs here in just a moment, but I've got to ask, through the first 4 games of Super Wildcard Weekend, what's the biggest storyline, the biggest headline coming out of Saturday and Sunday's games?
I think it's got to be Dallas, right? I mean, look, Green Bay was awesome. And I think we fall into the trap of praising one team very briefly before we then just trash the other one. And then we spend an hour trashing that team. The Cowboys were awful, but the Packers deserve a ton of credit. They played really, really well. Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, and if you want to look for a second headline, those might be the 2 elite quarterbacks on the rise here. I mean, they looked like it in the regular season. They certainly looked like it over the weekend. But I think it is the Cowboys as the head storyline. When you look at them and just go, I don't know how you run this thing back. I don't know how you go out and you just re-sign a bunch of guys because they do have a lot of free agents coming up. And you bring back Mike McCarthy and you think you're going to have a different result. Based on what? Because in the playoffs the last 3 years, you've won a cumulative 1 game. You have looked atrocious in the postseason, and yesterday was a complete tire fire. So I think it's time, if you're Jerry Jones, to make real change.
And I was going to follow up with that too, because I just, like, where do you go up from here if you are Dallas? And Mike McCarthy is a great guy, and he went to college just down the road here in Baldwin City, Kansas, went to Baker University, and he's a good guy. He's a very good coach, but I don't think he's good enough at this time of his career to get you anywhere higher than they've been. 3 straight years, Matt, of 12 wins and nothing in the playoffs. I mean, that's embarrassing more than anything else. I've never been a Dak guy. I don't know that he's the guy who can lead you beyond where they are. It just feels to me, and I'm curious if you feel the same way, like if you don't hard reset, you're never going to fix whatever foundational problems exist.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a case to be made for that. I would say that if I'm Jerry Jones, my game plan, I'd move on from McCarthy. I'd call Bill Belichick, who he's close with, and I would offer him any amount of money. And I mean literally anything. Like, you want $25 million a year? Sure, that's fine. What's it going to take? Because I do think that roster can win, but you can't win the way they play. I mean, that game got out of hand almost immediately, and part of the reason was Dak throwing 2 passes, especially the latter one where Savage went the other way. You have no business throwing. You have no business. You just can't make that throw. I think Dak is a good quarterback. I don't think he's great. But I think they can win if they have a big-time head coach. The team that I look at after that weekend and say, look, I don't know how you can look at them and think they're going to compete, is Miami. I know Miami was missing 1 million guys on defense. I understand that. They weren't missing guys on offense. And I don't know how everybody else felt listening to this. When the Chiefs got up 16-7 at halftime, I thought the game was over. I mean, Miami couldn't score a point. They didn't look like they wanted to be on the field. They, I think, have a lot more soul-searching to do long-term than the Cowboys.
Well, let's just follow up then and jump right into Chiefs versus Dolphins. And from that Miami perspective, I think it was a matter of some stubbornness by Mike McDaniel that they didn't change anything from the game plan they've been running all season going into this game, knowing they had to play in the elements, knowing the Chiefs had something to play for. It just looked like super uninspired football. In between the 20s, their defense wanted absolutely nothing to do with tackling the Chiefs, and that was apparent from the very beginning. It just feels like that is, as much as people make fun of the Cowboys as front runners, like, I don't think I've ever seen a team that front runs like Miami does. As soon as they get hit with adversity, they just seem to crumble.
Yeah, look, I think that game had a lot to do with, it was a game that the Chiefs are a better football team. Even when Miami's healthy, they showed that in Germany. The weather was just a train wreck for Miami. Miami looked like, how long is this game going to be? When can we get out of here? Please let us get out of here as fast as humanly possible. I mean, I got to tell you, and this is in a weekend where Dallas was down 30 in the fourth quarter. I thought the most pathetic thing that happened that weekend was Miami on 4th and 16 throwing a slant to Cedric Wilson. I mean, are you kidding me? Just Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you're down, your season's on the line, and your answer to that was like a 5-yard slant route? it was like a joke. I mean, they just threw up the white flag. I just think with the Dolphins, their problem is they can only play one way. That's it. And that's why nothing changed. That's why the game plan was what it was. And frankly, I expected it to be that because they can't play power football. They can't get downhill and just road grade. They can't challenge you with a bunch of out-breaking routes because the quarterback doesn't have the ability to throw those balls. Like, the Chiefs just sat there defensively and knew exactly what they were going to do and plowed them for 4 straight quarters. I mean, it was ugly football from a team that I think is just really one-dimensional, and that's cool in 90-degree weather. It's not so great when it's -10.
Our guest is Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, usually at 3:30 on Mondays here on 580 Sports Talk, but joining us early so he can pay full attention to the Bills and the Steelers coming up in just a little bit, the 5th of the 6th Super Wild Card Weekend games. Continuing our discussion about Chiefs-Dolphins, we will get to the Chiefs in just a second, but I got to think this is a massive offseason for the Dolphins because they've got to make a Tua decision going into his 5th-year option year. Where do you think the Dolphins stand on that? Do you think they'll do something long-term? Do you think Tua would sign something that might look like a shorter-term extension, or is he going to bet on himself to put up big numbers in a pretty good offense?
I mean, if I'm Tua and they offer me an extension of any note, I'd take it. If I'm the Dolphins, if I'm Chris Greer, the GM there, there's no way. I'm not giving him an extension. I know he led the league in passing yards. I don't care. Jameis Winston did that once. Matt Schaub did that one. Like I don't care. Dude, led the league in passing yards. It doesn't matter. I look at him and I just say the last 3 weeks of the year, obviously including the playoffs, you played the top 3 AFC seeds. You got smoked in every one of those games, and he was awful in all 3 of them. Terrible in Baltimore. Yeah, the score was close against Buffalo. They got boat race in that game. And the only reason it was close is because Buffalo made a million mistakes to keep it close. And then the Kansas City game, they weren't even competitive. I mean, you take out the throw down the field to Hill, which was not a good throw. He underthrew him. He threw for like 3.5 yards an attempt in that game. So I just think if you're Miami, like you play it out. You probably play him another year on his rookie deal. And if he's great, then sure, tag him and try to sign him. But I don't see enough if I'm the Dolphins or I'm going, I'm giving him $5 and $250 because that's what it's going to cost.
As for the Chiefs, who move on to the divisional round, and they'll find out where they're going to play and who they're going to play here in about 4 hours or so. Mahomes was excellent and the defense was excellent. That kind of feels like the formula, doesn't it? If they've got 60 minutes like that in them 3 more times, are they taking home the Lombardi again?
Oh, they play like that 3 more times, yeah. I mean, they were unbelievable in that game. They were. How often is it you walk away from a game like against a good team, not against some 4-win team, where you're atrocious in the red zone and you win by 19 points, and it's not because you got a whole bunch of turnovers. Like you were even in the turnover battle, and you won by 19 points, and you went 2 of 6. Like they were dominant in that game. I thought, look, the main takeaway I had from that game is offensively, Mahomes was good, but it was more just they pared it down and said, Rice, Pacheco, Kelsey. That's where the ball's going. And if you can stop that, you win. And Miami knew it, and they couldn't stop it. And I think next week, should they play the Bills? I mean, the Bills, like the Dolphins, play a lot of zone. You're going to be able to run through those creases. And the Chiefs in the game against Buffalo in the regular season, they moved the ball well. The last 2.5 quarters of the game, they had turnovers. I think for the Chiefs, that's the biggest thing. Their defense is great. They're going to play well defensively. I don't care who they play, where they play them. The main thing is they cannot turn the ball over. And if they avoid taking the ball out of their own hands, which they've done ad nauseum this year, they have a great shot because that defense is the best defense in the NFL. I mean, nobody can score. Miami, it was almost comical in the fourth quarter. They were just batting down passes for fun the fourth quarter of that game. So they're tough. They're tough to deal with, especially with those corners.
So the Chiefs are watching this afternoon/evening's game in Buffalo with great interest. If Buffalo wins, they're headed there Sunday. If Pittsburgh pulls the upset, they are at home against Houston. Which way do you think they're rooting at One Arrowhead Drive? Would they rather play on shorter rest against Houston, not have to worry about making a road trip to Buffalo? Or would there be something appealing about playing a Buffalo team on 2 days fewer rest?
You know what's funny? I think if you ask, just like if you sampled 1,000 fans, I think they'd all pretty much be like, hey, take the home game against the Texans. And frankly, I think that'd be the far easier game. I have a ton of respect for them and CJ Stroud. I think the Chiefs are a nightmare for Houston. Houston has to throw the ball to win. Nico Collins is the only guy left. They just put Noah Brown on IR. I think the Chiefs would just blanket him, and that would be curtains. I do not think Houston's going in there and win that game. I think if you sampled the locker room, I bet you they want Buffalo. They are going to want another shot at the Bills, who they feel like they should have beat the last time they played them. And I remember, if you watch that quarterback series on Netflix, last year Mahomes was sitting there watching, the night before the Bills-Bengals game after they had beat Jacksonville, and I think he said to his father, like, yeah, we match up well with Buffalo, but I want the Bengals. I think they want the Bills. I really do. I think if you could just say, hey, look, pick your team, I think they want to go to Buffalo. Now, whether that's smart, I don't know, but I think that's what they want.
Chatting with Matt Verderame, who covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated and SI.com, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. A couple other quick hitters from the weekend, Matt. From that Browns versus Texans game, obviously a huge day for CJ Stroud. He really does look like the real deal. On the other side, is that probably it for Joe Flacco?
Yeah, well, look, the problem is, first of all, yeah, Flacco was terrible in that game. But Flacco did that throughout the season. Like, that was kind of the weird. Nobody talked about that. He threw for 300 yards, 4 straight games, and he threw for a bunch of touchdowns. He threw like 8 or 9 picks in those 5 starts. He threw a lot of interceptions. They didn't throw back-to-back pick sixes. But the Cleveland, and this is why I just can't get into the Browns long term. Like, what do you do now if you're the Browns? Well, you're not bringing Flacco back. Obviously, he's 38 years old and he was a stopgap. So now you're going back to Deshaun Watson, who's coming off shoulder surgery, who's basically barely played 3 of the last 4 years. Who, let's just say, I don't think anybody's overly enthused about the fact that he's on the contract that he's on, except for Deshaun Watson and his agent David Mulgett. I'm sure they're thrilled. Where do you go? Like, if you're Kevin Stefanski, you can't run the offense you want to run with Deshaun Watson. He's been terrible. He hasn't shown he can play. So I think it's one of those deals where, yeah, Flacco's done. You're going back to Watson, but I don't know where you go with them. I feel like there's just a ceiling with Deshaun Watson that they've reached. I don't know. Like, you're not competing in the AFC with him as your quarterback.
Real fast, Matt, before we let you go, and I know you already mentioned this earlier, Jordan Love was pretty freaking good, huh?
It wasn't bad. He was great. He was absolutely great. I mean, I think, like I said, he and Stroud, you watch those teams, watch those quarterbacks, said, okay, well, Houston and Green Bay are going to be good for a while. And if you're the rest of the NFC North, I'm sure you're just absolutely sick to your stomach that Jordan Love's really good. But, yeah, you know what? Listen, if you're the Packers, I don't care what happens in San Francisco. This season's been an unbelievable, unqualified success.
Yeah, no doubt about that, especially because I don't have very high hopes for the game in San Francisco. Matt Verderame covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. Go check out his great work. Follow him on Twitter as well, at Matt Verderame. He joins us every Monday here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, we appreciate the time. Appreciate you being flexible with the schedule today. Enjoy the games today, and we'll talk to you next week after the divisional round.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
That's Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Awesome insight into everything that went on. So much to get to. We didn't even get to that Rams-Lions game from last night, which was a lot of fun. We'll touch on that a little bit coming up next hour. Want to remind you guys, before we get to our news break here at the top of the hour, Friday from 2 until 4, the full crew, myself, Dan, and Spencer, who joins us tomorrow for the first time, we will be up at Prairie Band Sportsbook, just about 20 minutes north of the city. The grand opening to the public of the sportsbook, the only locally owned book in the state. That is so cool. They do a great job. We've gotten a sneak peek. It looks awesome up there. We will be live from 2 until 4 coming up on Friday. We'd love to see you up there. 10 betting kiosks, one of the most extensive betting catalogs in the state. So come check it out with us on Friday, grand opening of the Prairie Band Sportsbook. We have to get to a break for the news. When we come back, we've got more Wild Card Weekend to get to on 580 Sports Talk. o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk on Victory Monday coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We've got some NFL action that begins in just about 30 minutes, where we got 26 minutes until kickoff, so just after 3:30. It'll be Steelers versus Bills, and coming up in just a moment, we'll break down what the best outcome for the Chiefs would be in this game and which matchups next weekend would most favor Kansas City. Also coming up in this hour, we'll go around Wild Card Weekend, get our thoughts on the other games that have already taken place so far. Packers over the Cowboys, Texans over the Browns, as well as last night, Lions edging out the Rams in Detroit. Plus, we'll recap the entire sports weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Big week here on 580 Sports Talk. Obviously, Victory Monday today. Tomorrow, our pal Spencer Dupuis joins us, the newest member of 580 Sports Talk. His first day on the program tomorrow.
Welcome to Kansas, big dog. It ain't always like this.
I texted him earlier to let him know, hey, if you've got any questions before coming in tomorrow, just let me know. Hope you've been staying warm. He said, yeah, it's been an adjustment. It's not always like this.
No.
We both were saying earlier, maybe I should have taken a better look at the weather. But my wife said the same thing, too. Was not expecting more snow today. And it's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a measurable amount.
Do you or someone you know go to school in the area? I ain't going tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
I'm looking right now because we got the TV up and we got CBS on for the Bills game, and they're rolling the closings on the bottom line. Man, it's everybody. It's every Topeka district, public school district, Seaman, Shawnee Heights, Washburn Rural, Auburn Washburn, and 501 all out tomorrow. And,
Silver Lake too. Just saw they're closed up too. Not surprised.
Jeff West is out. Garnett, Anderson County's out. Washburn is closed. They're closing Kansas State University tomorrow as
Washburn
well. Too. So a lot of closed schools tomorrow.
Perfect time to stay home and listen to us. Check us out on the YouTube. You're going to be home, stay warm. Got the new member of the crew joining us tomorrow. Perfect time to just stay in, watch us on YouTube, or listen on your radio or online at 580wibw.com. Also this week, Thursday, Friday, and this is why we really need this weather to clean up ASAP. We've got the Topeka Invitational Tournament. It begins Thursday. We are going to have triple header coverage on both Thursday and Friday this week. Dan's going to be on the call live from Hayden High School. We will have coverage, possibly joined in progress for the first game, but games 2, 3, and 4 of the day. So that includes the opening round on Thursday and then the back half of the consolation bracket and both championship bracket games on Friday right here on 580 WIBW. We'll have 2 hours of sports talk each of those days, and then we will usher you into coverage of the TIT right here on 580 WIBW. So excited about this. Fun field this year, obviously, with the 4 city teams that are taking place. Really excited for this year's games.
People are curious, the first round action at the Butel Center on Thursday. Highland Park plays Lawrence at 2. Our coverage is going to start with the second game of the day, Topeka West against Shawnee Mission North. Then you got Topeka High against Wichita Northwest at 5:30. Wichita Northwest top 10 team in Class 6A. I'm so excited about them. I hit my microphone. And Hayden and Lansing is the nightcap on that Thursday night. So, good field, proud programs. Obviously, the city well represented. Going to be a good time at the Butel Center.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun Thursday and Friday. And also Friday, as we already told you, we will be up at Prairie Band Casino and Resort, just about 20 minutes north of the city, for the grand opening of the Prairie Band Sportsbook. We are so excited to be there for its grand opening. It looks awesome. Got a little sneak peek this past week. We're going to be up there from 2 until 4, right after the ribbon cutting. Come on by, place your first bets in person. It's a great look, great place to go and watch a game as well. And that's not all that's going on at Prairie Band, this weekend either, with the opening of the sports book. They are also holding a second chance drawing. So if you go in, place a bet in cash, put it into the kiosk, make your first bet while you're up there. If you don't win, you've got a chance to turn that losing ticket into an autographed item from Bill Self, or from Bo Jackson, or Travis Kelce, or tickets to K-State basketball, or even tickets to Sporting KC versus Inter Miami at Arrowhead Stadium, the Lionel Messi game. All those on the table at Prairie Band Sportsbook's second chance drawing.
Boy, I almost hope I lose my bet.
Right? Listen to all those things you could possibly win. So if you have a ticket, you place a bet of at least $20 on Friday or leading up to Saturday. You can then deposit your non-winning ticket into a drawing drum on January 20th between 10 a.m. and 1:29 p.m. They're going to do the drawing right after that coming up on Saturday. Again, what bets must have been at least $20. You place your non-winning slip into the drum, and they will pick a winner for each of these prizes. Autographed, again, Bill Self, Bo Jackson, Travis Kelce memorabilia, great tickets to K-State action later on this basketball season, and possibly tickets to Inter Miami versus Sporting KC at Arrowhead as well. They are super, super excited about this. We're excited about it too. Something else you can check out Friday at Prairie Band Sportsbook and their grand opening. We've got a question from Vance in YouTube who says, can I bet NASCAR at Prairie Band? Well, I can tell you this for certain. Well, I don't know exactly what kind of futures or race wagers you can make. I can tell you for sure they have one of the most extensive catalogs of any of the books you can access here in the state of Kansas. Only locally owned book in Kansas. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say NASCAR is going to be in the portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty safe bet.
Nice.
Pun absolutely intended and apologized for formally by me as well.
So come join us for all the fun. Again, we will be out there live 2 until 4 Friday from Prairie Band Sportsbook up in Mayetta. The Chiefs are into the second round of the playoffs, into the divisional round, dominant win over the Dolphins, as we've covered. They still don't know who they are going to play. That is because the Bills-Steelers game, which was supposed to be the early game at noon yesterday, it was pushed back because of blizzard conditions.
And just to make this clear, in case you were of the mind that they canceled the football game because the weather wasn't good enough for football, no, they canceled the football game because the last time they had a blizzard, the extent of which they had this weekend in Greater Buffalo, 50 people died. And you tell me what's a better use of your emergency services, trying to help people in life-threatening situations or making sure people can get in the parking lot to watch a football game.
Yeah. And
that's really at the end of the day, what a decision like that comes down to. That's why when you heard the announcement, it was not Roger Goodell making the call. It was Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, who said, yeah, man, we can't do this.
We had an entire segment on Friday's show about at what point is the bad weather, does it go from, weather game, toughness in the elements to, okay, no, we can't do this. This is actually bad when lives are quite literally at risk. So I understand a lot of people, especially on Twitter where everything is fake and made up anyway.
Yes.
Like, we used to play in weather games all the time. I can't believe you're moving this. It's just snow.
They're canceling games due to woke.
I want you to be alive to be able to watch the game.
Like, it's having people out in that is a public safety hazard, and not just football players, but like people who would try to go to the game. So that's for the greater good of the city of Buffalo and the surrounding area, and nothing to do with whether or not it would have been fun to watch a snow game. Because of course it would have been fun to watch a snow game.
You know how much I love snow games.
Yes.
It's an American tradition to have snow football.
As someone who never played in one. Yes.
Right.
We think they're great. That might have been the quote of the season from Ezekiel Elliott of the Patriots after week 18 when they played in the snow against the Jets. And he said, I'd wanted to play in a snow game my whole career. And then when I played in one, I discovered it kind of sucked. So, your mileage may vary, but they ended up having to move the game to today, and people are trudging through waist-high snow just to get to where their seat would be if they could dig it out of the snow. It's tough conditions.
That has to be the most comfortable table jumping of all time, though, for the Mafia. You're just landing in a big pile of snow when you go through the table.
Yeah, that is a good point. I was watching, I was curious. So the all-time coldest game wind chill-wise in NFL history is the game known as the Freezer Bowl. It's a 1982 AFC Championship game played in Cincinnati. It was the Bengals and the Chargers. And the wind chills got down to negative 59 degrees. There was no precipitation. In fact, it was sunny. that day in Cincinnati, but it was so cold. It was -9 degrees, and it was so windy that the wind chills got down to -59 degrees. The full broadcast of that game is available on YouTube.
Mhm.
So I called it up and I watched the beginning of it, a couple drives, and you see Cincinnati's head coach Forrest Gregg having an assistant slather Vaseline on his face so that his face wouldn't just crack and bleed and freeze. Like the wind's blowing the football all over the place. Every tackle looks like it hurts. Like that's pretty grim. But I think that if you saw any of the video from Buffalo yesterday afternoon, that was not football.
No.
That was not playable weather. It was not.
No.
Beyond even the public safety hazard, like they could not have played football in that. Not anything like real football anyway.
Yeah, not anything that looked like the real sport. So we've got that game coming up first, and then we've got the NFC game a little bit later on with Buccaneers versus Eagles, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. What is the best outcome in this game for the Chiefs? Because if you don't know already, you haven't parsed through it because it is a lot to focus on with the reseeding and all that. If the Bills win today, Bills beat the Steelers, it will be Chiefs at Bills next Sunday. That's when that game will be played. If the Steelers win, then it would be Chiefs versus Texans, and that game would be played next Saturday.
It'd be the first game
Correct.
of the playoffs. You either playing the first one or the last one.
Yeah, so it'll be your first game Saturday or last game Sunday. And we've hit the time of year where now we get weird times for Sunday games, 2 and 5:30, starting this coming weekend. So what is the best outcome for the Chiefs? Is it you get, like Matt Verderame said, because you asked him this last hour when we chatted with him, the Chiefs might want to go get that second crack at the Bills. And that's, professional athlete mindset. You want to be the best and you want to beat the best. And those guys got you earlier in the year. They hit their momentum swing after that. You want to be the ones to knock them out, especially because you've played them a bunch. You've developed something of a rivalry with them in recent years. But you've got to go on the road. You've got to go to their place where you've won before, but you're going to be facing a very amped up Bills Mafia along with the actual Buffalo Bills. Other side of things, you get the Texans at home at Arrowhead Stadium, a team you haven't faced this year, a team that, you put them on paper, they're probably not as good as the Bills, but as we talked about last week, they are young and dangerous as opposed to veteran savvy and dangerous. And right now, the hottest quarterback, when you take into account the back half of the regular season and the first round of the playoffs, the hottest quarterback in the league might be CJ Stroud. So I think it's at least an interesting question to pose here.
Yeah, Stroud's playing great, and Houston will certainly derive a lot of confidence from what they did to that Cleveland defense. Though when you really looked at the underlying numbers, Cleveland's defense was really great over the course of 18 games. But once Myles Garrett got hurt and was kind of a shell of himself down the stretch, it was not nearly as effective a defense. And they didn't have Denzel Ward. It wasn't quite the Herculean feat to beat that Cleveland defense in the way that they did, that maybe the season-long numbers would have suggested. But that, I don't say that to be entirely disrespectful to like what Houston has done.
Sure.
And they're like running low on wide receivers. They lost Tank Dell midway through the season. As Matt mentioned, Noah Brown went on IR today, so that he's down. It's Nico Collins and a bunch of dudes I bet you could name at gunpoint catching passes right now for the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
So it's a lesser team, and they'd be coming to Arrowhead, and you'd love to have another home playoff game. The Saturday to Saturday turnaround is a regular turnaround. I think if you're the Chiefs, you take it. If that's the matchup you get, you feel pretty good. Like, are your odds better of beating Houston at home than beating Buffalo on the road? Like, just strictly from a mathematical perspective? Yes, there are.
Absolutely.
Yes. But I want to take you back. And I'm sorry to do this to Chiefs fans, but it was the first thing I thought of. I want to take you back to 1998. And a really good Kansas City Chiefs team. Really good team. 13-3 that year. Had a first-round bye. Hosting a playoff game at Arrowhead Stadium. And, of course, you don't need me to tell you that this was during the fallow period where the Chiefs did not win a playoff game for, almost 30 years. Chiefs hosted the Denver Broncos in the divisional round, and they lost that game. They lost that game 14-10. Marty Schottenheimer punted from the Denver 36 in the fourth quarter. And
sorry, Chiefs fans.
Yeah, and then they got down to the 20 and had a 4th and 2 on the final drive of the game, and Darian Gordon broke up a pass to the end zone. I remember watching this game.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos won the game, and they went on to win the Super Bowl that year, famously defeating the Green Bay Packers in Super Bowl 32. So I guess I'm kind of sorry also to do this to you. And also, I'm sorry to do this to myself because I don't like remembering the Broncos doing good things. It doesn't make me happy either. But I say all that to say this. I remember that playoff run for the Broncos. They had to go through the wild card round, divisional round, AFC Championship game. Their first round opponent was the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team that had eliminated them from the playoffs the year before.
Mm-hmm.
They played in the divisional round against the Chiefs, who had beaten them in Arrowhead in December. And then they went on the road to Pittsburgh, who had beaten them at Three Rivers Stadium during the regular season. They won all of those games. And it was a big honking deal. They called it, as it was happening, the Revenge Tour.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this. Bronco fans of a certain vintage will remember the Revenge Tour on their way to winning the Super Bowl that year. I think revenge is a powerful motivator. I think that level of engagement, that level of being excited, combined with the championship pedigree that these Chiefs had. See, I'm going to bring it all the way back around to the present day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that brings out the best in the Chiefs when they're engaged, when they've got something to play for. We have seen the last 2 games that the starters have played, they have been as keyed up and as focused for these games as they have been for any all season long, and it's been some of their best football. I think the Bills will bring out the best in the Chiefs. If they have to go to Highmark Stadium on that Sunday, I think that will bring the best football out of the Kansas City Chiefs. It doesn't necessarily mean they win it, but that situation will bring out their best. The other factor that I think is worth mentioning is the fact that the Bills would be on 2 fewer days rest than the Chiefs would be for that Sunday game. 2 fewer days rest. Mitch Holtz has talked about this at length down the stretch in this regular season, that the Chiefs were at a rest disadvantage to their opponent, I think every week for like a 5-week stretch.
Yeah.
And that started to take its toll. You get to this point in the season, that rest advantage, it matters. It's 2 extra days for the Chiefs to rest their bodies, warm their bodies, and continue to get ready for another playoff game where the Bills are going to be playing on a field. Do you know what Arrowhead Stadium has that Highmark Stadium in Buffalo doesn't?
Field heaters.
Yes.
Yep.
Field heaters. It's going to be like playing on a blacktop today for the Bills, and they're gonna have to turn around and play again on a short week. I don't think you're scared of that. Let's just say that if you're the Chiefs, and that might be, they would never say it out loud, but that might be what they want.
I think there is something to that for sure. And frankly, look at how this team in recent years, because it's a lot of the same pieces and, guys who have at least been there for a couple of years, look at how charged up they get when they play Cincinnati, a team that, unlike Buffalo, has won the big one against the Chiefs in the last couple of years. Look at how keyed up the Chiefs get for those games and the games where they feel slighted. This is why I always joke about if you ever hear a Chief say, well, we don't listen to that stuff, it's all just in-house. Nah, it's not, man. You're listening to everything that's on the outside. We know it. You don't hide this stuff very well, guys. But they get very amped up for those games. And I think there is real value to that in this matchup, knowing that let's be frank, you failed at your objective earlier in the year when you played because you could have ended it. You could have ended for good this era of Bills football.
Yeah.
Because if the Bills get eliminated from the playoffs midway through, Josh Allen doesn't have his resurgence, which has been as much with his legs as his arm in the last half of the year. Sean McDermott's getting fired. They're probably going to make a lot of tough personnel decisions. Instead, Bills got hot. They make it to the playoffs. They win their division and earned these home games. I do agree with you that I think the Chiefs thrive in situations like that. Let me throw one other wrinkle into here, though. And this is dangerous thinking because, as we always say, you get to the playoffs, survive in advance. You got to handle the games that are in front of you. You can't look ahead too far because then you lose sight of the objective in front of you. Is it also, and this doesn't matter because the Chiefs are going to try to win and everybody's trying to win right now. This is just fans hypothesizing, media hypothesizing here. Is there possibly value, though, in the Ravens having to face a tougher team this weekend? Because, and I think this feeds into maybe you would rather play the Bills and have that revenge element to this, especially because they're kind of banged up. Rasul Douglas isn't playing right now, so if they win and he can't go next week either, that's a really big deal for the Chiefs offense. Would you rather be in a situation where Baltimore has to face Houston, which again has been playing well, and Baltimore, as good as it has been for most of this season, their pass defense can get got. It's been better, but it can be beaten by a quarterback who's on a roll, or they end up playing Pittsburgh, and while that's a rivalry game, they know each other well, they always play close games. Pittsburgh is, I think, the least talented team in the postseason this year, and they'd have to play in Baltimore. So just from an outside perspective, does that influence you at all, thinking, maybe I kind of want the Ravens to either have a higher chance of losing or be a little more battered going into the championship game?
That could be a factor. I think that could potentially be a factor, but I think you also have to factor in, don't necessarily think that Pittsburgh is an easier opponent.
Sure.
In the sense that they are division rivals, and they have beaten the Ravens already this season. They had TJ Watt for that game.
Yep.
Would they have TJ Watt next week? I don't know. It would be pretty miraculous if he could turn around and play on next Sunday. But that's not an easy game for the Ravens, because Steelers-Ravens is that's not easy on anybody.
No.
It's just historically, like, I know Troy Polamalu and Ray Lewis aren't walking out of the locker room for this game, but it's still Steelers-Ravens, and that's still a lot. There's a lot that goes with that. So I don't think it matters. Like, if you're the Chiefs, I don't think you care who the other guys play. You just want to take care of your business. And as if you can take care of the Bills and you can do what you missed a chance to do in the regular season and end this era of Bills football, I think that's something that you probably embrace. I do. Like I said, I don't think they would say it out loud. But Patrick Mahomes did say it out loud. We just didn't hear it until it showed up on Netflix during the summer when they asked him, hey, who would you rather play in the AFC Championship game, Cincinnati or Buffalo? Matt Verderame talked about this when we had him on last hour. And he said, look, yeah, we match up better with Buffalo, but man, I want Cincinnati. I want to beat those guys. I'm tired of losing those guys, and I want to beat those guys. That is so powerful. This Chiefs team, they don't do a lot of talking before the game. You've noticed that. They do their talking on the field, and they do their talking after the games. So they would never say it out loud. But I know in that locker room, if they drew Buffalo, they'd be amped to go to Buffalo.
I'd be amped too. I'd be very excited to get that matchup one more time. We'll keep you updated on that Bills versus Steelers game coming up here. It's just about to kick off in a few minutes. We owe you a timeout, but after this commercial break, we'll go around the rest of Wild Card Weekend. Plus, we'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's all coming up here in this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. I was right about the mafia and the tables today, by the way. I'm watching a video on Twitter right now. 3-4 guys all standing on top of a gigantic snow. I mean, this thing's got to be 10 plus feet tall with a table on fire below them. And all as a group, they jump through it. One dude eats it. He doesn't even make it to the table. He just hits the side of the snowbank. And they just fall to the snow below them. This is awesome. This rules. Snow football is the best. Action from around wild card weekend again with Bills Steelers just about to kick off. Bucks versus Eagles tonight. 4 games in the books already. Outside of that Chiefs game, though, let's start with yesterday afternoon's game because I think that's the one that turned the most heads. Like, wow, because the Texans blowing up the Browns did too, but also, like, I think we all kind of knew at some point it was probably going to come crashing down for the Browns on their 5th quarterback of the year. Bigger storyline. The fact that the Packers looked that good or the fact that the Cowboys looked that bad?
It's got to be the Cowboys. And like, obviously Green Bay was great.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give Green Bay their flowers first and foremost. Jordan loves throwing dots, man, even against the blitz. That throw to Wicks for the 3rd touchdown made it 20 to nothing because they doinked the extra point. But that 3rd touchdown, that was the throw where I go, okay, they've done it again. Like the Packers have their franchise quarterback for the next 15 years until he gets weird and plays for the Jets, because that's, again, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Like, no, that was the one. Like, Jordan Love made some other great plays in that game. He's made a lot of great plays here down the stretch, but that was the throw where I just went, ooh, buddy. This guy is the top 10 quarterback in the league right now, and maybe playing on an even higher level than that. So they deserve a ton of credit. Aaron Jones ran the ball well. Defensively, obviously they had a couple of interceptions of Dak Prescott, and took one back for a touchdown that really kind of sealed the fate, I thought, of that game when it made 27-0. But man, the Cowboys quit.
Yeah.
Like, I know they scored a couple of consolation touchdowns there late in the game, made the final score look a little bit more respectable. But if you watched their defense, this vaunted Dallas defense in the second half of that game, they quit, man. They were making business decisions all over the field. Deron Bland, I was told he was an All-Pro.
He and Trevon Diggs are the same player. They're the exact same player.
They are interception merchants.
And honestly, no one I think was hurt more in that game because everyone's already got an opinion on Dak Prescott. Everyone's already got an opinion on Mike McCarthy and a lot of the players that Dallas has. I think if anyone had their reputation hit here, and I know you have strong opinions on this, it was probably Dan Quinn, who 48 hours ago, and I mean, he's still getting requests to interview for head coaching jobs. 48 hours ago, you ask, the average NFL fan, they say, oh yeah, Dan Quinn, I know that name. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. Because the average fan, not like really intense fans, but says, hey, if I know an assistant or a coordinator and not a head coach, it's probably because they're either really good or really bad at their job.
Right.
And I know the Dallas defense has been good, so Dan Quinn's got to be one of the best. They looked unprepared. They looked lazy. They looked lost, and they were getting cooked by, and these receivers clearly have talent for Green Bay. I think that's become very apparent, but like, a bunch of dudes who've never played. Romeo Doubs had never had a 100-yard game before. Never in his career. He went for 150 plus yesterday. Like, if you're the Dallas defense, you've got to be thinking, hey, what the hell? Like, why weren't we ready for any of this? I brought this up to Matt, too, when we talked to him last hour. And I maybe used wording that was a little too hard, saying they needed a hard reset, because that means, like, you get rid of everybody. But legitimately, what more is there you can do with Mike McCarthy as your head coach and with Dak Prescott as your quarterback? Because every year it's, and I even told you, I have a note written in my phone right now for my on second thought for Friday, by the way. I told you Friday that I thought the Cowboys could be in that small group of teams who you could say, no, I totally get it, that they could win the Super Bowl this year. Clearly I was wrong. But like, this has been Dak his entire career. He puts up a bunch of numbers, oftentimes in garbage time. Like, if you only look at the box score, you said, damn, 400 yards and 32 points. Man, that's a heck of a game for Prescott. No, he was awful for 3 quarters. Awful. And this is who Mike McCarthy has always been, plus a Super Bowl with a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, I just don't know what more there is you can do with that group.
But 12 wins each of the last 3 seasons, and they can't even get to a conference championship game. Like, you have bumped your head on the ceiling with this group. And it was just so glaring to me that as soon as things went wrong, like as soon as they went behind 7-0 and they didn't score in response on that first drive, you could feel like, the cheeks are getting a little tight. The cheeks are clenching. And I don't mean the ones on the face. The cheeks were starting to clench at AT&T Stadium. You could feel it. You could feel it in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You could certainly feel it on the sideline. You saw it in the huddle. That's not a team that believes.
Nope.
That's not a team that thinks that their lot in life is to go win a Super Bowl. And you're not doing it with Mike McCarthy. You were never doing it with Mike McCarthy. It was a bad hire in the first place. You hire Mike McCarthy and you limit your ceiling. You put a cap on what it is that your team can accomplish. And that's why I'm a little surprised his key card still works. I thought they deactivated it during the third quarter, to be completely honest with you. I'm a little surprised that as of right now, it appears that his key card at AT&T Stadium still works.
If Mike McCarthy gets fired, okay, like if you're Carolina, and I don't know anyone who would want to work for David Tepper, that's a coach that would make a lot of sense because he is going to raise the ceiling for a team like that. He is going to make you respectable. You're going to run a real NFL offense. You're going to help your young quarterback. That is what Mike McCarthy is really good at doing. But you're only going to get 3 or 4 years until you realize, hey, we got to respectability. Now what? That's Carolina, which is miserable and awful. This Dallas team, no matter who the roster is, who's on the roster, what it looks like, the expectation is Super Bowl every single season, especially because of who that owner is.
Mm-hmm.
Mike McCarthy can't get you there.
No.
He's just not going to do it. Dak said after the game, if McCarthy is on the hot seat, then so am I. Man. We know that's the problem.
Don't tie yourself to Mike McCarthy. Don't tie yourself to that sinking ship, man.
Yeah. Oof.
So again, you want to make sure and because you're around, we will give the Packers their appropriate amount of credit. But no, that was appalling from the Cowboys. Like, it takes a lot to lose funnier than running out of time 2 years ago against the 49ers and having Ezekiel Elliott snap the football on the final play of the game last year. It takes a lot to go out sadder than that. And they did it. They managed to go out sadder than they did the past 2 seasons. And yeah, man, like what's longer, an NFL commercial break, a TV timeout, or a Cowboys playoff highlights broadcast in HD montage?
During the playoffs, I think it's the commercial break. I think it's definitely the commercial break. The Packers were awesome yesterday. That was so much fun. Aaron Jones hates the Cowboys.
They were running wide open.
All day.
Wide open. Luke Musgrave fair caught that touchdown.
It was incredible. After the game, so the Packers always post
did Dallas run field goal block? Like, what happened there?
When I was a kid growing up, when we would play Madden at someone's house, if the game was within like 2 scores with about 2 minutes left, we had a rule that you made it interesting, which meant you played punt block as your defense for the final couple possessions of the game and just to see what happens to keep it interesting. That's what the Cowboys did on that play. So the Packers shared the video from the locker room of Matt LaFleur shouting out all the different individual performances. And Luke Musgrave has developed a reputation for falling down with a stiff breeze. Like, he just trips. People say all the time, oh, he runs like a baby giraffe. No, he really does. Like, he stumbles and falls all the time. LaFleur's giving out game balls. He's naming all these big performances. Then he goes, Musgrave stayed on his feet. And the whole locker room goes nuts. They're just going crazy. But he hit 30 yards of space in every direction. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
You couldn't find a Cowboy from the all-22 view.
It's like they had 9 on the field for the snap. Just disgusting. If Dan Quinn gets a head coaching job, the game is rigged. And if he gets the Seahawks head coaching job, I'm calling in sick.
That's fair. No, that's valid. That's entirely fair. Let's go to last night's game. In fact, Rams versus Lions is what we thought it would be. Yeah, not as much scoring in the second half, but
bad beat if you had the over.
Oh yeah,
only 9 points in the second half.
Yeah, that's tough.
Didn't get home.
Credit to the Lions, man. They were tougher. They were the right kind of aggressive, whereas the Rams were not. Jared Goff, I think, played a very solid game. You want to talk about dudes running wide open, maybe cover 14. Now, granted, a couple times they did cover him, and he still broke tackles. I've never seen a receiver break tackles like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's remarkable. It's like a running back at breaking tackles. But he got open too many times. Goff made enough plays. Stafford was great for the Rams, but in the end, they didn't make enough plays, and I don't think that Sean McVay was as aggressive as he needed to be in the second half. And I think that's the reason it was close. They had a chance, but that's the reason they lost by 1 point.
Yeah, I thought like down to down, series to series, the Rams were every bit as good as the Lions.
Agree.
But the Rams didn't execute when they got down into scoring range. And then on defense, the Rams kept sending a 315-pound undrafted defensive tackle into coverage, which is not a good plan. Including on what ended up being a game-winning touchdown. So, that was just a point where I was surprised that it was the case, because I said when I picked the Rams to win that game, I said, I think they have the better quarterback. I think they have the better coach. And then Sean McVay got out-coached by the kneecap-biting guy. So,
I think,
what do I know?
Dan Campbell, I think, deserves a lot of credit for what he has done. And culture wins. Like, X's and O's are important, and that's why Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, their two coordinators, are both getting head coaching offers, because I think they're really good at what they do. But that team believes they could be playing the 85 Bears, that 19, or I guess it would have been the 18 Chiefs offense, the 07 Patriots. It doesn't matter. They think every single game we're going to beat you, and we're probably going to kick your ass on the way to doing it. And I give them credit. I'm not happy for them. I see people all over. I'm so happy for the Lions. I'm not. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
no way.
Why do I care? I mean,
yeah.
You win 2 playoff games in 65 years. I'm supposed to be happy for you that you won? No,
absolutely
I don't
not.
care that something good happened to you. It should happen to me instead.
Right. Absolutely. But I think Campbell deserves a lot of credit for what that team has turned into, and credit to Jared Goff, man. He's been throwing a really good ball recently. Saturday's game, the first game of the day, the Texans just obliterated the Browns. And
if you were a neutral fan, this weekend was kind of probably unsatisfying. I mean, unless you really, really enjoyed seeing the Cowboys lose, which I would get.
Yeah.
But like, if you were just a neutral observer, you didn't have a dog in the fight, you just want to sit down and watch playoff football. You had 3 games that were kind of blowouts.
Yeah. And you knew it was going to happen at some point for Flacco. The Browns obviously hoped they would get 1 game farther than they did. I thought they would. Stroud's it, man. I mean, it did not take long at all to figure out that guy is the guy. And
yeah, he's what they look like.
And the thing for Stroud, too, because Matt brought it up, and I've heard this elsewhere today, looks like Jordan Love in Green Bay and C.J. Stroud in Houston. Like, maybe that's the next dynamic duo of quarterbacks. Love, even this year, he was really hot first 3 weeks. Then middle of the season, he was not good at all. He's been great back half, but he was not good in the middle of the year. October was a terrible month for him. This has been Stroud all year. He has been unflappable. Game in, game out. He is so calm, poised. His arm is crazy. That game he played against Georgia in the playoff last year when he was at Ohio State, when it was a crime that they lost that game with that field goal that missed by 4 zip codes, because he played out of his mind. That's what he has looked like all season. And I think that team is a blast. I think they are built to be a contender in the AFC going forward with their coach, their young roster, and with Stroud at quarterback. And they gave it to the Browns. Cleveland was not ready for that defensively at all. And that's a bigger surprise to me than anything, is that their defense was just not prepared.
Yeah, I didn't see a blowout coming there. No. I certainly thought Houston could put up points, and Stroud played great, but I didn't see that turning into a blowout. I also didn't see Flacco throwing 2 pick sixes. Like, that's... Although maybe I should have. I did watch. I watched his movies in Denver and with the Jets. Like, the Cinderella turns into a pumpkin eventually.
Got our first score of the game. Are you ahead of me?
I am behind you. I'm looking at the snap on 2nd and 7. There,
okay.
There it is. There's a touchdown.
All right. Buffalo on top, 6-0. Josh Allen just found Dawson Knox, who from the 1 yard line to the 10 on the other side of the field, like complete nobody. Red zone, greatest player of all time.
That was a hot knife through butter drive for Buffalo on their first possession.
Yeah, they that was too easy for the Bills on that one. We will get to a timeout. We'll get back. We'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Plus, we'll keep updating you on the Steelers-Bills game coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Recapping the holiday weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. Two-part good for you from me for this weekend, outside of the obvious, which is Jordan Love's awesome. Number one, thrilling win for the Washburn men on Saturday on the road against Lincoln. Up by 4 with about 5 seconds left, gave up 4 immediate points to tie the game, and then a game-winning free throw by Andrew Orr with a second and a half left in the game. That was awesome. So great bounce-back win for the Washburn men. Also, do you know who Kristen Juszczyk is?
I do now.
She is the wife of San Francisco 49ers fullback Kyle Juszczyk. She designed herself, handmade the custom Travis Kelce jacket that Taylor Swift wore to Arrowhead yesterday.
I believe also the Patrick Mahomes one that Brittany was wearing.
As well as she made one for Simone Biles, whose husband Jonathan Owens plays for the Packers. She is now like the face of NFL merchandise. She takes player custom jerseys or, authentic jerseys, cuts them up, attaches them to other styles of clothing. They look awesome. It's amazing. She's like making down jackets out of old jerseys. It's crazy. And she was blowing up on social media this weekend and this morning. So shout out to her. I saw a bunch of people say, hey, Fanatics could use someone like this.
Yeah, no kidding. At least in quality control. You know who else gets a shout out? Kyle Juszczyk for getting in the comments of like every tweet or Instagram post about those jackets and saying, how's my wife?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
A+ wife guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Get you be someone's Kyle Juszczyk today.
Yes.
Yeah, be your wife's Kyle Juszczyk today. Big her up. Or be your husband's Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah.
Whichever. We don't discriminate. My good for the weekend. I hadn't been to Allen Fieldhouse in a couple of years, and I hadn't been to cover a game since pre-COVID. So I availed myself of the chance to do that on Saturday. Went and saw them play Oklahoma, and there are a lot. I like a lot of the venues that I've had the occasion to go and visit, and they are all special, and they all kind of vibrate in their own way when there is a big game. But man, there's only one Allen Fieldhouse, so it was cool to go back.
Yeah, that's awesome. Got a good game, too.
Yeah, a good performance for the home team. We'll talk more about it in the 4 o'clock hour.
I am going to blend my bad and ugly together here. So we teased it a little bit earlier, and we'll get to it in headlines later. But Jedd Fisch, former Arizona head coach, coaching nomad. The longest tenure he's had at any professional job was 3 years at Arizona.
Yeah.
That's insane. He's the new head coach at Washington, and there was a lot of drama. Who was going to take it? Reports that Chris Kleiman at least was talked to about it before electing to stay at K-State. There are reports out there that Lance Leipold was offered the job and turned it down. Matt Campbell interviewed for the job as well. It ends up going to Jedd Fisch. It's always hard when you're a departing head coach to say, to meet with the team and say goodbye. A lot of negative things from Washington fans said about Kalen DeBoer in the last couple days when he left to take the Alabama job. Jedd Fisch met with Arizona players for 3 minutes and booked it right to the airport to leave for Seattle.
Well, he didn't have anything more that they wanted to hear him say.
Yeah.
In fairness, that was as long as they could stand to be in the room with somebody who they didn't really want to hear talk to him at that moment.
Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona sports, you heard his name a lot during realignment season this offseason. He said he was getting texts and calls from players and parents all day that meeting was going to be short and it was not going to be very happy. And then he said afterward, it was even worse what he heard from the meeting. So yeah, dude, they didn't want to hear it. I get it. And you just want to get in, get out, and, try to stop the bleeding as quickly as possible. I feel like they deserve a little bit better than what Jedd Fisch gave them. But again, he never wants to stick in a job, and he's going to leave Washington in 2 or 3 years too.
My bad would have been the quality of 3 of the 4 games we got over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Houston and Cleveland was a dud, and objectively, Chiefs Dolphins, if you were not interested in the outcome, was not a terribly competitive and compelling game, particularly in the second half. And God, did it ever drag to a conclusion too? My goodness, I thought that game would never end. It was an inevitable conclusion, but it just would not get to it. And then Dallas Green Bay, though I enjoyed Dallas losing very much. I am still a child of the 90s who did not grow up a Cowboys fan, which means I I hate the Cowboys. So I enjoyed watching them lose like that. But again, not a terribly competitive or compelling game. We got a good one last night at least. But yeah, hopefully today's games are better, although we're not trending in a great direction with Bills Steelers, frankly. I'm not sure the Steelers are going to score. My ugly, y'all people need to get off Taylor Swift's back. Like, leave her alone.
Leave her alone.
Like, she's having a fun time. She's watching her boyfriend play. She's having fun with people in the suites, people outside the suites giving high fives, singing along to Garth Brooks, dancing like the players are dancing. Just let her have fun. Let her be a person having fun at a football game. Just like you get to be, just like I get to be. Just let her have fun. Get off her case.
I hate they're shoving her down our throats. Look at your phone. She's on screen for 5 seconds at a time. Look at your phone. Grab a snack. Go pee. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
We are going to get to a break here at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll come on back, recap the hoops weekend for KU and K-State. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. now, just starting the 4 o'clock hour of a Victory Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucera with you up until 6 o'clock today. Celebrating a Kansas City Chiefs win this weekend, a dominant win over the Miami Dolphins. We've got action going on right now in Orchard Park, New York. And with 4 minutes and 10 seconds left in the first quarter, the Buffalo Bills have advanced on to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs.
Yes, congratulations to the Bills. They're up 14-0. George Pickens with a catch fumble, recovered deep in Steeler territory. Bills scored in the very next play after the ruling on the field of an incomplete pass was properly overturned. Dalton Kincaid from Josh Allen, 29 yards. This appears to be route in progress. I don't think Mason Rudolph's coming back from 14 down on the road.
No, neither do I. I saw the fumble. I put my head down to my phone to play precisely one round of Minesweeper, and by the time I looked up, the Bills had scored and were kicking the extra point.
Did you win the round of Minesweeper?
No, I did not. It did not go well.
Well, usually if it goes quick, it means you probably lost.
Yeah, I got tripped up. Made a poorly educated guess there.
Do you start in the corner or just take a stab in the middle?
You know, I had been doing corners, but it hadn't been working out well for me, so I've been just hunting and pecking and kind of, searching wildly there. Are you a Minesweeper head?
I haven't played in a long time.
I love Minesweeper.
Yeah, gotten on kicks where I've played it a lot before, but no, I haven't played in a while.
Once upon a time, I used to, such what kind of student I was, in high school, sometimes be like, oh yeah, I got to go to the bathroom. And then I would sit in the bathroom for like 8 minutes playing Minesweeper on my phone.
I don't have a lot of games on my phone. I do the Wordle every day. I play Connections every day from the New York Times. I have word cookies, unscramble the words.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun one. But no, I'm not a little solitaire here and there, but not typically. If I got my phone open, I'm probably reading something.
I've got, let's see, Minesweeper, Pokemon Go, because of course I do.
Sure.
A quiz game that I play only with my wife, and then I still have Words with Friends, which again I play only with my wife.
Man, I remember Words with Friends. I don't think I've played that in a decade. I played it a lot, but then, it was kind of a fad and it went away a little bit. I have Solitaire, Gin Rummy, Word Cookies, and Stratomatic Baseball.
Gin Rummy is not one I was expecting.
Yeah.
Huh. I tried to get into Solitaire when I was younger. My mom plays a lot of Spider Solitaire. That's her game.
My mom loves Spider Solitaire.
Yeah, big Spider. When I was growing up, we had one computer. It was in my parents' room. And always open was a web browser and Spider. And the ball just got tipped, and the Bills returned it for what appears to be a touchdown, but I think they're going to call it an incomplete pass on now it's 4th down. This is going to get really, really ugly, I think. Buffalo was ready to play. Pittsburgh is quarterbacked by Mason Rudolph. Yeah, this bounced off the turf. This ain't going to go well. So it's going to be Chiefs-Bills next weekend.
Yeah. Can already start your preparations. Chiefs-Bills, primetime, Sunday night, last game of the first round.
Yeah, I am excited because I've got Washburn during the day, and now I won't miss the Chiefs game on Saturday. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, you can watch college basketball on Saturday.
Yeah, no.
Watch KU or K-State on Saturday.
Fired up about that. Vance, by the way, on YouTube says, I still have the original Angry Birds on my phone.
Oh, wow.
Didn't
they delete that from the App Store?
I think Angry Birds 2 exists now. Wow, that is a throwback right there. All those games are fads, though. It feels like they come around and they're on there for a little while, and then they just disappear. And it's, hey, remember that thing?
Like, I've seen some people, they play those like really involved sports games, and I'm like,
why are you playing 2K on your phone, bro?
I had like the 2K card game.
Yeah,
where you could, like, level up your cards, and that was a long time ago.
I had this DC Comics like Mortal Kombat knockoff, and it really was you just tap the screen over and over. Like, there's really not a whole lot of strategy to it.
You know what I miss? I miss the Shockwave games on the you could just play on the internet.
Oh yeah,
you dial up, like, oh gosh, what was the candy like Lifesavers? You go to their website and you have
Candy Stand.
Yeah, Candy Stand, man. You used to play all the like the mini golf.
Yeah, candy themed mini golf. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the stuff. That was the good stuff. I played those, like, that was college era for me. I played those relentlessly.
When I was in elementary school, we had computers in every classroom. I mean, we used them for various things, but we played a lot of like Flash games online.
Yes, Shockwave Flash.
I have this vivid memory of playing a Sonic the Hedgehog Flash game in my 6th grade science class. And I loved my teacher, Mrs. Schroeder. She was the best. And she calls over to our group and goes, guys, did you finish your project? We're like, yeah, it's done. It's like, are you playing Sonic again? Yeah. I said, it better be good. I said, we'll find out.
Did you ever get the emulators? Like where you you could download it and you could play like old Sega games or Nintendo games. Yeah, I remember I downloaded a Sega emulator once. It was a bus trip. I was in college and we were busing down somewhere and I played like NHL 95 or NHL 93. It was NHL PA 93. I played it for like 3 hours on the bus.
In fact, I think I had it on my old laptop at least. I had a Game Boy emulator. And I remember my sophomore year of college, I took this class. It was a journalism class. It's kind of like a First Amendment class, but not really. It was pretty much just like a chance for this professor to lecture at us nonstop for 50 minutes. Hour 15, in fact. It was a Tuesday, Thursday class. I sat second row, same seat on the left-hand side of the auditorium every single day. There were like 40 of us in the class. I played Pokemon Crystal every single day. Twice a week. That's the only time I played it. It was just Tuesdays and Thursdays. I would sit in class and I would play it. And we had like no tests. We had like 4 assignments the whole semester, and I got an A, and that was it.
Nice.
Like, okay, I really did not need to take this class for my education. Love the education I got at KU, but that was not a necessary class. All right, we've got, speaking of class and college, some college hoops to get to from the weekend. Also, a reminder before we break down KU and K-State that coming up on Friday, your opportunity to bet on some college hoops, some NFL action, pretty much anything you want to bet on from the brand new Prairie Band Sportsbook. Their grand opening for the public is coming up on Friday. They will have a ribbon cutting early in the afternoon, and we will be there live on the air from 2 until 4. It's the only locally owned sportsbook in Kansas and the only tribally owned sportsbook in Kansas as well, up at the Prairie Band Resort and Casino, with one of the most extensive betting catalogs in the state and 10 kiosks. You just walk up. Very simple. They have a tutorial even on their website where they explain how you use them, what it takes to bet on them. Really easy. Plus all the other amenities that you have up there at the resort. You've got Firekeeper Golf Course, which you probably can't play on right now with all the snow, but they have Topgolf swing suites inside. They look awesome. We took a tour of those the other day while we were up there. Indoor and outdoor pool. They've got a full arcade in there. It is awesome. So go check it out. You can go hang out with us coming up on Friday live from 2 until 4 at Prairie Band Sportsbook and the casino up there in Mayetta. 12305 150th Road, just about 20 minutes north of the capital city. As for the action that is in the past from Saturday afternoon, we'll start with the KU game because, Dan, you were there. KU needed that win because after the UCF loss and having to sit on that for 3 days, that leaves a really, really bad taste in your mouth when you lose in that fashion to that team. And I think KU had not a perfect game, certainly not a perfect first half, but got in a rhythm. Hunter Dickinson was great. Kevin McCullough was great, at least on the offensive end. McCullough has become not quite like a James Harden free throw merchant, I don't want to say, but he has really developed almost Devontae Graham-like. Like, hey, if I've got the ball, I'm either going to get it in the hoop or I'm going to the free throw line, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And it's working. And that's now the 4th time both of those guys have scored 20-plus in the same game. And you got, when those two are clicking, when those two are giving you those kind of contributions, you don't need 3 other double-figure scorers. You just need guys to make open shots, move the ball well, and one other guy to have a decent offensive game. 15 points, back-to-back double-doubles for KJ Adams. He was great, especially early in that game. And Johnny Furphy continues to look better and better with every single game. That's useful. The problems with KU, it's the same as they have been, the same that they will be all year, but I thought a really impressive bounce-back effort from that group.
So 2 big takeaways from that game for me. Number one, Johnny Furphy is the fit. He is the 5th starter. And I don't think there's any going back for Bill Self in Kansas as they've installed Furphy into the lineup. His energy was so good in the first 3 minutes of the game. He made 2 hustle plays that, like, obviously visually had Bill Self excited on the KU bench. He's not afraid to try and score, which I think sometimes Elmarco Jackson is, and certainly Jamari McDowell is, and Nick Timberlake has looked shook at times this year. But Johnny Furphy doesn't look like that. Like, Johnny Furphy looks confident. He looks like he fits with that starting group. So I think that's the lineup moving forward. It does make it a little bit more incumbent on El Marco or Nick Timberlake or even Jamari McDowell to do some scoring. Did the Steelers just turn it over again?
It looks like that might be the case. Pat Fryermuth, fumble on the sideline. Bills are on top of it. I believe it is Buffalo ball.
Oh,
it is already 14-0. The Steelers look just pitiful. Pitiful.
That was a huge play too. That was a 30-yard gain. Got him out of trouble. That's it's bad to worse. Anyway, it does make it more incumbent on the bench minutes to be good. I kind of watch KU now like I watch the Denver Nuggets, because the regular season with the Nuggets, it's all about can you hang in there in the non-Nikola Jokic minutes? When he's not on the floor, can you not get destroyed?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Nuggets starting five is so good that all the bench has to do is just not get rolled.
Stay afloat.
Yeah, and the Nuggets are going to win. I pointed this out. I did a reaction video on Saturday from Allen Fieldhouse. Dickinson went out with KU up 9 with 11.5 to go. It was the under 12 timeout. Parker Brown played 3 minutes. KU was up 8 when Dickinson came back. That'll do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if KU starters can build a lead, all the bench has to do, all you have to do in the bench minutes when McCullers out, or especially when Dickinson's out because he's so unique, just keep it in the road. Don't get blown out in those minutes, and you're going to be, I think, in pretty good shape. So I think the bench has its objective, and you have your starting five with Furphy. The other thing that I thought was impressive, KU's defense was much better in the second half than it was in the first. They made some adjustments. They kept Oklahoma's guards from getting downhill and getting to the rim as readily as they did. They forced OU to shoot a lot of threes in the second half. And, OU's a decent shooting team, but they were only 6 of 20 from behind the arc on Saturday. That wasn't a winning formula for them. But part of the reason that Oklahoma didn't score much in the second half, because Hunter Dickinson was out there blocking shots like prime Udoka Azubuike had 5 blocked shots, which tied a career high. He's not going to be Udoka as a rim protector, but he just has to be a presence.
Yeah.
And on Saturday, he was a presence, and that really limited what teams could do. It kept them from trying to drive on KU's guards and forced teams to put it up from 3 instead of venture into the paint. So that was a really good game from Dickinson. Bounce back game for him after he didn't play great at UCF. Bounce back game for the whole team. And then I thought, honestly, that they might drop out of the top 10 entirely in the AP poll. Then everybody else in the top 10 lost, and they won convincingly over a previously top 10 ranked team on Saturday. And so today, there they are, third in the country still.
Absolutely insane how many top 10 teams lost. And KU had the worst of them on it. Like, the UCF is bad, but at least most were on the road. Houston lost twice. I told you that TCU team is good, man. I think they are going to be a really annoying, pestering team all year. And they can play with anybody. I think the second worst loss of the group was yesterday when Illinois lost at home. Everyone else was losing on the road. Mm-hmm. They lost at home to a Maryland team that is like they're like the Dolphins of college basketball. Like, are they better than like the average team? Yeah. But do they inspire any amount of confidence? No, not at all. And they beat Illinois in Champaign. By the way, they took that back and they gave it back to Pittsburgh. So the Steelers are still only down 14.
Apparently, the ball hit Fryermuth while a body part was out of bounds. So they got a lucky bounce.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, I mean, that's lucky for KU rankings wise. That happens though in college basketball, right? There are some weeks and there are some days. I remember vividly. It was 2022, so KU wins the national title that year. It was the weekend that I was not here. I was in Austin. I was on my bachelor party. It was right before I got married that spring. And my buddies and I are down in Austin. We found a bar. We watched KU Baylor. And KU did not lead the entire game, I think, and ended up losing. And Gonzaga lost to St. Mary's at St. Mary's. Like 10, Kentucky lost to Arkansas that day.
I remember this.
Like 10 of the top 15 of the teams in the country or something lost. It was just bloody Saturday all over college hoops. That just happens in college basketball more than any other sport, I think. And weather the storm. And if it takes, sometimes you're going to lose those disappointing games because it's the Big 12 and those games are tough. And UCF was obviously keyed up for that matchup. But to bounce back and beat an Oklahoma team that, are they probably overrated? Yeah. Are they still much better than they've been? Also, yeah. KU needed that. I think that was a good win. K-State goes on the road and loses to Texas Tech. And there is no shame in losing to a good program, and who I think is a good coach. I like McCasland a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And losing in their place, which is a great arena, even though, it's winter break, maybe not at full strength yet. But there's no shame in losing that game, even when you only score 59 points. However, and maybe I'm overreacting to this because I didn't get to see more than just kind of the condensed version of this game. So you can tell me if I'm wrong about this. Jerome Tang said after the fact, he said the final play was to try to get Tyler going downhill. He did not shoot the ball especially well for the game, did end up with 16 points, leading scorer in the game, but wanted to get Tyler Perry going downhill. He'll either make the shot or go to the foul line. And then after the game, Tang had a snarky comment about how that was obviously a bad decision. We didn't shoot free throws all game. Next time I'll know better. That's very funny. Maybe they should have called a foul.
Arthur Kaluma got knocked into the basket support going for the rebound. Also, the clock didn't run during the play.
Yeah.
At all?
The whole thing was a mess.
Yeah, it was really bad. Also, Joe Toussaint probably traveled on the game-winning basket.
Yeah. I didn't love the thought process behind that play.
I hate watching KU play the shot clock. Like their shot clock offense, when they are trying to grind a game out or grind a possession down.
K-State?
Yes, K-State. Yeah. When K-State does this, and it's just Tyler Perry dribbling around for 20 seconds and then trying to beat a bigger guard off the dribble, which he can't do, and then try and score inside the paint, which, again, he can't do. That's a waste of a possession. You may as well just give the ball to the other team. You may as well stand there with the ball pinned to your hip for 30 seconds and give it to the other team afterward, because that's just as efficient. It's not good offense. They have to figure something else out because Tyler Perry creating for himself is not working. No. Definitively, it is not working. It is time to try something else. Maybe let Cam Carter try and create, because Carter can beat somebody off the dribble. I haven't seen Tyler Perry do it all year. I didn't see him do it against Oral Roberts. I didn't see him do it against Chicago State. He doesn't beat dudes off the dribble. It's not his game. There is stuff he's good at. He's a wonderful shooter. He is calm with the ball in his hands at the top of the key and makes pretty good decisions. There are things he does well. Hero ball ain't it.
No.
You gotta stop. You just gotta do something different. Let Cam Carter create. If you want Tyler Perry taking the shot, run him off some screens. Run him off a series of screens and get him open out on the perimeter, or get him open for a pass where he's cutting to the basket. Do something else. I'm tired of watching that be the late game solution. It's gross. And that cost him the game. They had an 8-point lead. 8-point lead, 3 minutes left. You've got to see that out. I don't care who or where you are playing. You lead by 8, 3 minutes left. You got to win that basketball game.
I agree with you. I'm 100% there with you. And I think part of the problem, and this is partially on Perry, it is partially on K-State, and part of it is just fate, too, that you don't have a settle everyone down ball handler because Glover is hurt, and that's something you can't avoid. And it is what it is, but it sucks. Last year, Perry was the Conference USA Player of the Year, right? And he was great, and he was awesome. And I said after he committed to K-State, this is your best player for next year's Wildcats team. Then they ended up getting Arthur Kaluma, and we've seen how good he can be. We didn't know Tomlin would be out, etc. Last year, Tyler Perry played against UTSA twice. They played Florida International. They played Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee. Conference USA was good last year. That was one of the very best mid-major conferences last year. But going to Diddle Arena in Bowling Green, Kentucky is not the same as going to the USA in Lubbock. Those are not the same kind of environment. Those are not the same kind of coaches. Those are not the same kind of athletes. And being able to beat those guys off the bounce and being able to beat these guys off the bounce are not the same thing. It's not. And that's why it can be hard to adjust your game, and why it is sometimes hard, especially early in a player's tenure, to get mid-major players who transfer up to get them acclimated to the next level. I look at a guy like Dalton Knecht at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Transferred in from Northern Colorado. Shooter. And he's got other skills, but his big thing is he can shoot the lights out. That is, I think, a much more transferable skill because release is not opponent dependent. You catch the ball, you shoot the ball.
Here's the most transferable skill that Knecht has. He's 6'7".
That's also true.
Tyler Perry's 6 foot.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. It's bigger guards just smothering Perry.
Let's also be honest about this. And you can see this on the YouTube stream. I will tell you, it's air quotes on the radio. Tyler Perry is 6 foot. Okay.
Yeah.
That I've stood next to Tyler Perry. I'm solidly above 6 foot.
He was as much 6 foot as Marquise Noel was 5'10".
Yeah. So
it's 6 foot in the program.
So being smaller and maybe not having quite the same level of burst makes it difficult to try to take guys on the drive like that. And K-State has relied on that so much, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You've got to find something else.
It's got to be better late game, late shot clock execution. They've got to have a different plan other than, hey, Tyler, make it happen. Because, hey, Marquise, make it happen. That worked because he was a true point guard and he ended up being an All-American. I think Tyler Perry, like I said, does some things very, very well. I do not think he's going to be an All-American. So there's a difference, right? And I don't think you can. I think it's probably time to stop wish casting Tyler Perry into the Marquise Noel role in those late game scenarios. I put the ball in somebody else's hands, run a play. I don't know, run a play.
Yeah,
maybe. Like, I love Jerome Tang as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I love the way he gets his guys to play for him. His best trait as a coach to me is how he gets guys to believe that they are great players and believe that they are going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes a hell of a long way. But I do think this particular bit of X's and O's has been lacking for Tang and the Cats so far this year. I don't think that that is really an acceptable way to finish games. I mean, they went on that 20-0 run in the first half, but it was fool's gold. Mm-hmm. You ever hear a coach tell you the 3 ball is fool's gold?
Bill Self, many times.
Yes. I've heard that from at least one Washburn coach.
Yep.
I've heard it from high school coaches, junior college coaches. Coaches every level will tell you the 3 ball is fool's gold. And that's how K-State went on that big run. When the 3 stopped falling, they just weren't as good in the half court. It let Texas Tech kind of chip back into the game and ultimately win it. Maybe that's a different outcome if that game's at Bramlage, but unfortunately, you don't get that one back. Here's the good news. Let's finish on a positive note for Kansas State. Mason Voth of K-State 24/7, not 24/7, K-State 365, I think it is. Or the on 3. I'm going to double check.
That's K-State Online, I believe.
Yeah, I want to get the credentials right.
Yeah, it's KSO.
Yeah. Mason Voth with KSO had this on 3. It's on 3, not 365. He had this stat on Twitter Saturday that there were 7 teams in the Big 12 that have already played 2 road games. 7 teams that have already played 2 road games in the conference out of their first 3 games. And
the Steelers just turned it over at the 4-yard line.
You're so far ahead of me. They just got to the line on 2nd and goal from the stream I'm watching here.
Sorry.
That's okay. I knew something bad had happened.
Oh,
it's Mason
man.
Rudolph, man. What do you expect? What do you want? That's a terrible interception.
Terrible. 14-0. It might as well be 140-0. I'm sorry. Continue with your point.
Anyway. 7 teams of the 14 in the Big 12 have already played 2 road games. The only one of those teams to come out of their first 3 games with a winning record is Kansas State. They're the only one that has won more than they've lost. Houston, first 2 of their first 3 on the road, 1-2. Oklahoma, they're 1-2. Texas, 1-2. BYU, top 10 team going in, 1-2. Cincinnati and Oklahoma State got bageled, having to play 2 of their first 3 on the road. They haven't won a league game yet. So for Kansas State to be 2-1, objectively fine. Big picture, they're in good shape going 1-1 last week. But that's one you might wish you had back come March.
I would agree with that. By the way, an update on the Big 12 standings. Everybody in the league has 1 win so far, at least 1 win in Big 12 play, except for one. Oklahoma State, 0-3.
They scored 44 points on Saturday.
I know Iowa State's defense is good, man, but
it
ain't that good.
Look, man, you know how the calendar works. November, December, Otzelberger, February, March.
That is very true. I like Mike Boynton, but
it's over for Mike Boynton.
Yeah, it might be time to go pro in something other than high major.
It's Jover.
Yeah.
It's never been more Jover for him.
Let's get to a timeout. What is wrong with you is coming up next, and we'll get to more from Super Wild Card Weekend and what is right now an ass kicking for the Bills. That's coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for the first What Is Wrong With You of the week here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero here with you. Brand new week of What Is Wrong With You, which, as always, is sponsored by our pals at Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal with Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, right here in the capital city, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Dan, why don't you go first with your story today?
Got a user or a listener submitted story. We encourage those. You can reach out to both Brendan and I and submit what is wrong with yous. And two different listeners, both named Ryan, called this one to my attention. So shout out to those Ryans and any other Ryan who may be listening. We're on to Lincoln, Nebraska, where Lincoln police responded to an incident on Sunday at a Home Depot after a man was seen ramming vehicles and damaging businesses with a skid loader. According to Lincoln police, the incident started at 2:30 p.m. A man transported the loader to the U-stop near South 73rd and Pine Lake Road. He then got into the loader and caused damage to several vehicles at the U-stop and a nearby parking lot. He then drove the vehicle to the Home Depot, which was at 70th and Nebraska Parkway. I'm pretty sure I know where this is. I know Lincoln a little bit. Spent 4 years living in Nebraska, so I know Lincoln a little bit. So he drove it at least 3 blocks. At least 3 blocks in one direction. Drove to the Home Depot. He caused damage to several more vehicles, including a police cruiser.
Oh, no.
That part of the skid steer assault, it was what went viral and was captured on video for people to watch on Twitter or whatever. According to Lincoln police, when the first officer arrived on the scene, the man drove the skid loader toward the cruiser, ramming it while the officer was inside. The officer got out of the cruiser and drew his gun. LPD said the officer did not fire his weapon, and the suspect was taken into custody at gunpoint. He's been identified as 36-year-old Samuel Payrot of Lincoln. Payrot was arrested for criminal mischief, second-degree assault, and second-degree assault on an officer. Multiple vehicles were damaged. One man inside a damaged truck had minor injuries. Payrot also damaged the outside of 2 nearby businesses, including a liquor store and a bank, with the skid loader. Authorities say the skid loader is owned by Payrot's employer. I'm going to say it's Payro, probably. We'll go with Payro. I don't think you pronounce the T at the end. So Payro's employer owned the skid loader, and that he took it, along with a company-owned truck and trailer, to the gas station before everything occurred. The investigation is ongoing.
I don't think there's a whole lot you need to investigate on this one. The video is really remarkable. Was it intentional, you think, that he hit the cop?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he did it. There was malice aforethought here. He said, I'm going to ruin some people's day with this Bobcat skid steer.
I love that he does donuts in it first. I mean, he spins in a couple of circles, then it's like he's doing a dizzy race. He just spins the thing in a couple of circles and runs into the police car.
It's a heck of an advertisement. Bobcat skid loader, I'll tell you.
It really is.
Versatile, handles well in inclement weather. It did the job.
We've got an update from Buffalo. Do you remember when the Dolphins just refused to tackle anyone for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Wait, let me watch it. Let me watch it and react.
Okay. We're going to get live reaction here from Dan watching what just happened in Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, my stream has been crystal clear, but it seems like it's still lagging well behind yours. There goes Josh Allen. There goes Josh Allen. There goes Josh Allen. Wow, they're not going to tackle Josh Allen.
Nope.
There he goes. Yep, all the way.
52 yards to the house, and it is about to be 21-0 in the first half.
Get up off them sticks. Steelers.
Yeah, this is past the sticks territory.
Well, they got to make the extra point first. I said pass them sticks to the Cowboys, and then your boy Durs donked the extra point.
The Durs. You ever watch Workaholics?
Didn't really hit for me.
Yeah,
wasn't my thing.
I get that. I had a buddy in high school who called me Durs all the time. He was a big Workaholics fan. Not because my name is Anders, but he didn't want to say Dworzinski, I guess.
That's fair. Anyway, yeah, guy with skid steer bashing up a bunch of cars, including a police cruiser. We don't know why. It's like a miniature version of the great Killdozer story.
Yeah,
I guess that's not really a great story. Guy killed himself in the Killdozer, but no. It's kind of what it reminded me of, like a smaller, like a AAA version of the Killdozer.
My story is going to take us somewhere we haven't been for a story in quite a while. Remember when we had a streak of a ton of stories coming from Japan for a while?
I do. We had some good ones.
We are going to Hamamatsu Shizuoka Prefecture, where police have arrested a 25-year-old man on suspicion of home invasion after he was found sleeping in another person's home on Sunday morning. According to police, the 53-year-old firefighter, the 53-year-old man who lives in the house and awoke to find an intruder who is a firefighter sleeping on a sofa in the living room and then called the police. The two men do not know each other. Police say the firefighter was drunk at the time and quoted him as saying he does remember entering the house at 5 a.m., but nothing other than that. The lock to the man's house had been broken for some time. I would advise this 53-year-old man, fix your lock on your door.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, firefighter probably had a long shift, maybe, hung out at the lodge a little bit or at the station after, a long shift, had a couple of brews and then wandered into the wrong house and passed out on the couch. I don't know any Japanese beers. Maybe he had a handful of them, though. Sapporo.
Asahi.
Yeah. Maybe he had a few
Kirin.
Few Sapporos. And just passed out on a guy's couch.
That's tough.
I would, again, fix the lock on my door first.
Yeah, definitely. That would inspire me to fix the lock.
Yeah, it's pretty simple one there. Guy just needed somewhere to sleep.
It's a good story. It's not beating the guy with a skid steer rampaging across two different parking lots.
No, that's not beating that one.
That's
a really good story. That is a really good story. And it is our winner, our first winner of the week in What Is Wrong With You. Sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, in between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. Coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk, we've got more from Super Wildcard Weekend. And by the time we get back from commercial, maybe the Bills will have scored again. We'll tell you next on 580 Sports Talk. .442 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero joining you today from our studios high up on Huntoon Hill. Reminder that coming up on Friday, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook up in Mayetta off of 150 Road. It's going to be a blast. Grand opening of the new Prairie Band Sportsbook. They'll have the ribbon cutting earlier in the afternoon on Friday, and then we will be there live from 2 until 4. Before we get you on to coverage of day 2 of the Topeka Invitational Tournament with Dan on Friday. But a big opportunity at Prairie Band, along with checking out the state-of-the-art casino, the awesome place to watch game. There's big, comfy chairs all over, and they've got the 10 betting kiosks around, TVs all over the place. It looks awesome. You can even see preview pictures of it over at the Prairie Band website. But Prairie Band is also hosting at the Sportsbook a second chance drawing on Saturday where you could win autographed items from Bill Self, KU basketball coach, Bo Jackson, maybe the greatest pure athlete of all time, Travis Kelce, maybe the greatest tight end to ever play, plus tickets, really good tickets, by the way, to K-State basketball later on in the season, and even tickets to Sporting KC versus Inter Miami at Arrowhead Stadium coming up this MLS season with a chance to see Lionel Messi at Arrowhead. So the second chance drawing, your opportunity, your chance to win all of these super cool prizes. Place a bet at the Sportsbook after it opens up on Friday. And then if you do not win a bet of at least $20, you can take your losing bet slip and place it in a big old drawing drum. And then they're going to pull winners coming up on Saturday from 12:30 to 1:30. They're going to pull those out, and you're going to find out maybe that losing $20+ bet could turn into K-State tickets or a chance to see Lionel Messi in Kansas City, Bo Jackson autographed memorabilia, or anything like that. So again, non-winning slips, they've got to be entered before the drawing on Saturday. And of course, the book opens to the public coming up on Friday. We will be there. Come on and hang out with us up at the brand new Prairie Band Sportsbook grand opening on Friday. We will be there for the show live from 2 until 4. 12305 150th Road in Mayetta is where you can find us on Friday. Have you been to a sportsbook before?
I have not. That's why I'm so excited to have one just up 75.
I have been. I just went in and out of one at a casino last fall. And I'm just going to tell you right now, this one, relative, size of the casino, the space they had, it's right in the heart of everything. The steakhouse is right next to it. The entrance to the casino is right next to it in the lobby. It's awesome. Like, it looks like a truly great place. You want to go with just you, some friends, go sit, watch a game. It looks awesome. We have a question here from the YouTube comments asking who runs the sportsbook. It's Prairie Band. It is 100% Prairie Band's setup.
Yeah,
and asking, not affiliated with, one of the over-the-top gambling houses or affiliates or anything like that. This is all tribally owned, locally owned, the only locally owned book in Kansas. They've got a ton of betting kiosks where you can place the bets, an extensive catalog of things you can bet on. We were asked about NASCAR earlier. No, NFL, college hoops, whatever going on right now. All options there at Prairie Band. So we would love to see you guys up there again, 2 to 4 on Friday. If you want to come hang out, if you want to come see us, meet us, we will be there for 2 hours of 580 Sports Talk coming up on Friday. Same commenter, our pal Jayhawker says, independent lines are almost always better. Good news. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, it is going to be awesome. We would not be doing this if it wasn't going to be awesome. So we're super excited for our friends at Prairie Band. We're excited to be there coming up on Friday. Just under 6 minutes to go in the second quarter in Buffalo. Game 5 of Super Wild Card Weekend. It's 21-0. The Bills have the ball again. Is Pittsburgh going to score?
They might get a consolation touchdown, but that's it. Mason Rudolph is just buns, man.
You made a comment earlier when we were talking about the Chiefs game and what the Dolphins looked like on Saturday night, and talking about the belief in being able to beat anyone coming up next weekend in the divisional round, and how that has helped teams like Houston. It is continuing to help teams like Green Bay because they believe in these young quarterbacks. They believe that the Lions are the best example of this, that they believe any game they are in, they've got a chance to win. They've got a chance to beat you. I think Mike Tomlin is a great motivator. I think Mike Tomlin is a great head coach. I've been a big Tomlin fan for forever. And I think he generally can get guys elevated and amped up and ready to play. If you go out there and you're the Steeler defense, which just had a horrific effort trying to stop Josh Allen on a touchdown, and you know that when you're off the field, getting a breather and going over film and the images and everything, Mason Rudolph is out there throwing ducks all over the field. And George Pickens is fumbling. And Pat Freiermuth is the NFL's number one. What exactly is it that you do here, tight end? You can't have any confidence, right? Like this Steelers team, even with a master motivator at the helm, they've got to feel like we don't have a chance in a game like this, right?
Yeah,
because they're playing like it.
Like the defense probably feels like we got to score. We got to strip the football. We got to get an interception. We got to get a pick six. We have to do something ourselves to flip the game. And that's unlikely. That's all. I mean, it's more likely, I guess, against the Bills, because that's kind of Josh Allen's stock and trade is a dumb turnover. But now with the 21-0 lead, you don't have to put the ball at risk. Just keep it on the ground. Throw simple passes. That's how they've opened this drive late in the first half. Just keep it on the ground, swing passes. Don't do anything crazy with the football. Just take care of it, because Pittsburgh is not going to drive the ball down the field on you 3 times and score. They're just not.
No, I mean, if you gave them the ball and they didn't have to punt, like if instead of punting, if they went for it on 4th down and didn't get it, they could just keep the ball. If you gave them the entire rest of the game, 33 minutes and 20 seconds, do you think they would score 3 times?
I don't think they score 3 times if you locked everybody else out of Highmark Stadium, and I'm including the members of the Buffalo Bills.
I mean, it's bad, man. And they need a new offensive coaching staff. That's been known for a while, even after they fired Matt Canada. They've got to figure it out at quarterback, because I want to like Kenny Pickett a lot. He's healthy, and they're still playing Mason Rudolph, which is worrisome. Mitch Trubisky is somehow worse than he was in Chicago. I don't know what you do unless you trade up and get Michael Penix, and you think he's plug and play. You draft Bo Nix and say, let's try it. Like the Steelers are not, to me, the kind of team that's going to trade up to 1 overall to get Caleb Williams.
Hear me out. Steelers quarterback Kirk Cousins.
I think that would be great for them. I think that would be phenomenal for them. I know you mentioned Russell Wilson in Atlanta as a possibility, which I think makes a lot of sense for them. A team that should be able to throw the ball deep, and a quarterback who is really good, really at this point in his career, better than anything else at throwing the ball deep. I think that makes sense. I think either of those teams would make sense for Kirk Cousins as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's never going to be the kind of player who, let me restart this sentence. I don't think Kirk Cousins elevates the players around him. I don't think he's that kind of quarterback. I do think, though, he's the kind of quarterback who, if you have good pieces around him, is able to make plays for you, because he is accurate and he's got an above average arm. He can make those plays. The Vikings, and before that, Commanders football team, etc., they have not had those types of guys. And this year, Cousins, with Justin Jefferson as his 1, Jordan Addison as his 2, KJ Osborne the 3, and TJ Hawkinson at the 4, he was putting up, Pro Bowl at worst numbers until he got hurt this season.
Yeah.
He was making it shake. Pittsburgh's got players. They've got Deontay Johnson. They've got George Pickens.
Boy, Allen just about threw a really bad pick on 3rd and 7, underthrew a deep post. That could have been a play. That could have been what Pittsburgh needed.
Oh, special teams moment as well. I feel bad. You're like a minute and a half behind my screen.
I don't think I'm that far behind, but Tyler Bass missed his kick.
Yes. And a ton of field position in the process.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And he might have gotten hurt. That's not Tyler Bass. I think that's their holder.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Oh, then we're looking at a block is what we're looking at.
Yes. It was blocked into next week. That thing went flying backwards.
Jeez. Okay. Well, there it is. Like, that's what, if you're the Steelers, that's what you felt like you needed. You had to get a field flipping play from your defense or your special teams. You got one. Now, 2:11 left, short field. If you manage to punch one in, get to 21-7 at halftime, you never know. Maybe that re-engages your defense, gets them back into it a little bit.
Gets that interception.
Yeah. But that's what's going to happen. You're going to need one more of those plays. You're not like Mason Rudolph's not taking the full field. He's just not.
No, he's not going to. We have a texter in from the 785 that says Pittsburgh's not going to spend that kind of money on a quarterback. It's so interesting because they've had a guy for so long. I mean, Roethlisberger played forever.
That's why Wilson is interesting, because Wilson's got a buyback in his contract. If the Broncos cut him, whatever the Broncos owe him is decreased by the value of the contract that he would sign with another team.
Offset language.
Yes,
yeah.
Offset language. That's the correct term. So I think they owe him like $35 million. Like, what's stopping Russell Wilson from signing with somebody? If I'm already guaranteed $35 million next year, I'd take something a little under value from a contender. If it's just on top of the $35 million I'm being owed, I'll take something that's a little less, a little easier to massage with the salary cap if it meant I could get into a better situation, a contending situation. And here's the thing about Pittsburgh. It is always a contending situation.
Yep.
They are in the playoffs with this roster. They went 10-7 with this roster.
Yeah.
Outside of TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Minka Fitzpatrick, name a defensive player for the Steelers.
What's it? Artie Burns isn't there anymore.
No, he's a Seahawk, actually.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah. They got Larry Ogunjobi, I think. Or no, maybe they don't anymore.
Yeah, Ogunjobi's still there.
Yeah,
Great immaculate grid player because he played for both the Browns and Bengals as well.
Now, a lot of guys do the in-state one. Too.
No, he's a very useful player.
Grid had me in hell today, man.
Oh, I haven't played it yet.
It was a lot of Packers are on it, so you should do it.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'll do it during the break here. I don't know if this is really breaking news, but I think we have a Chiefs personnel update. Willie Gay, who's had a good year, very good year. He is watching this game right now, and he tweeted 6 minutes ago, "It's looking like I've probably played my last game in Arrowhead." Crying emoji. Damn, I'm going to miss that place. Nothing like it. Red and gold hearts. Let's go get this ring to end it the right way. Fingers crossed. I guess Willie Gay found out that he will not be re-signing this offseason with Kansas City.
Yeah, or his agent hasn't been approached. There's been no talk about, hey, we'd like to talk to you after the season. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I guess. Like,
it's a tough question because I think he's a really good player and I think he's a really good fit for this defense. And he's such a nice compliment to Bolton because they're both big hitters, but in different ways. Bolton, I think, is a more athletic version of your traditional thumper in the middle, and he's gotten better with his lateral movement, whereas Gay is more of your sideline to sideline linebacker, and he's got speed. He's a good coverage backer as well. At least has good hands when he gets into coverage. I assume the thought is that's replaceable enough, and the Chiefs have drafted linebacker really well.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Not a huge surprise, but I guess we've got confirmation about that.
Yeah, like doesn't seem like the kind of piece that's like an indispensable piece. A good piece, a good player, but not like the kind of guy where you think, oh man, we got to do whatever it takes to lock him up.
Yeah.
Like I get it.
No, very interesting. Coming up in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk today, we'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, some final thoughts on Chiefs Dolphins. Plus, we'll get to more of your texts to 785-272-9429 and your comments on the YouTube stream. All those coming up after the national news here on 580 Sports Talk. the final hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, 580WIBW.com, and live on YouTube, where our channel is called 580 Sports Talk. Go subscribe and check it out if you have not already. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 6 o'clock today. Coming up right at 6, we've got the Jeff Mittie Show, head coach of the K-State women's basketball team, the 7th-ranked team in the nation, in fact. And we'll talk about that coming up here in headlines in just a second. And then coming up at 7 o'clock, we will get you ready for Buccaneers hosting the Eagles in the final game of Super Wildcard Weekend. That is coming up right here on 580 WIBW today. Rounding out the busy weekend of NFL playoff football. At halftime, the Buffalo Bills with a 21-7 lead on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers did score.
They did. They scored a touchdown, and then they screwed up the end game. They got a sack with 43 seconds left. They had all their timeouts. Buffalo was not in scoring range, and also their punter is hurt. That's their holder.
Mm-hmm.
He got hurt. Looked like he came up lame
Pulled
on that blocked field goal. And the Steelers decided, you know what? Nah, we won't call a timeout until there are 2 seconds left in the half. At which point the Bills just kneeled it out and took it to the crib.
Again, I like Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
but
screwed that up.
Yeah, he botched that. That's something awful.
He's more scared of the Bills' offense than he is a believer in his own defense or his own offense. And that right there should tell you how the rest of this game's going to go.
Yeah, that telegraphed.
If that's the mindset on the sideline right now, that's what it's going to be.
We will get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines here in just a moment. We will also get some final thoughts on Chiefs versus Dolphins. We'll update you on this Bills-Steelers game as it continues because it plays a major role in knowing where the Chiefs are going to go coming up this next weekend. Of course, we're taking your texts. 785-272-9429 is our text line number, and you can find us on YouTube as well. Just go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, and you can check out all of our video content, including today's live stream, Chiefs Instant Reaction Show from Saturday night. We had a bunch of reaction shows on Saturday on YouTube. One from the Chiefs game. Dan was at the KU game at Allen Fieldhouse, recapped that one. And we had our Washburn recap as well, if you didn't get to listen to Ichabod Hoops on Saturday. Women fell to Lincoln. The men beat Lincoln in a thriller. Those games recapped. All the games from the weekend recapped over on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk. And don't forget that coming up on Friday, we keep telling you because this is a big deal, and we are so excited to see you guys up at Prairie Band Casino and Resort, where they are opening up the Prairie Band Sportsbook. On Friday, they have their ribbon cutting open to the public. We will be there from 2 until 4. Short edition of 580 Sports Talk that day because we've got coverage of the Topeka Invitational Tournament coming up. But we will be there to tell you all about the great, fun, brand new sportsbook at Prairie Bend Casino. Locally owned, tribally owned, in fact, the only one in the state of Kansas that's locally owned with one of the most extensive betting catalogs in the entire state. 10 betting kiosks. You can sit down in one of the big, comfy leather chairs with all these TVs right in your face watching games and say, all right, time to go place a bet on X game, Y game, Z game, whatever. Walk over to the kiosk, fill it out. Super easy to do. They've got tutorials online, even if you want to be prepared before you go up there, down there, east, west, to there, whatever, wherever you're listening from. So you'll be ready, prepared to go to place your bets while you're there. All sorts of great technology. It's right next to the steakhouse. So maybe go place a couple bets, have a nice meal, and watch some games. That sounds like a great night to me.
Yeah, go check it out and say hi to us while you're there.
Yeah.
We'd love to meet some of you that we haven't had the occasion to do. So, yeah, come on up, say hi to us, and check out the new Prairie Band Sportsbook. We're excited to have this. We're excited to have this so close. We're excited to have a locally owned, tribally owned sportsbook just north of the capital city up there on 75 in Mayetta. And we're really excited to be there for the opener. It's an honor for the folks at Prairie Band to want us to be there on opening day.
Yeah.
There's no better day in sports than opening day, right?
Right.
Whether it's baseball season, football season, or the opening of a new sports book.
Yeah. Plus, make a weekend out of it. Why not? All the amenities at the resort. Absolutely. So join us coming up 2 to 4 on Friday from Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. All right, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. First one I want to get to from the busy weekend. College football. Coaching carousel continues to move. We know that last week, Kalen DeBoer took the job at Alabama, leaving Washington in the lurch. UW needed to find a coach, needed to find it quickly. We had heard from the very beginning they were going to move with the quickness to find their new head coach. The usual suspects came up, Pete Thamel, all the other people who report nationally on college football, Bruce Feldman and the like. They reported the usual cast of characters, Chris Kleiman, Lance Leipold, Matt Campbell, etc. Yeah, okay, all the guys who always come up for these jobs. And then over the weekend, things started to feel like, hey, they're getting kind of serious. There were some social media rumors, some message board rumors that, hey, Washington actually is interested in Chris Kleiman. Washington really is interested in Lance Leipold and in Matt Campbell at Iowa State. These are names that you should at least keep an eye on. We don't know exactly who's involved yet, but you should pay attention. Jed Fish from Arizona was the other one that really stood out as a possibility for Washington. Then we heard, hey, Chris Kleiman said he's staying at K-State. He's going to stick it out with the Cats. Not really a surprise there. Chris Kleiman loves K-State. K-State loves Chris Kleiman. Gene Taylor and him have a great relationship, obviously. Not a surprise there. Matt Campbell reportedly interviewed for the job, and as much as Iowa State fans on Twitter tried to say, nope, fake news, not real, more media hype. Yeah, you sure about that? I wouldn't be if I were you, but best of luck if that's how you feel. And KU fans started to get a little nervous. I got a little bit nervous because there wasn't a lot of talk from Lawrence. Not a whole lot from the KU side to shut down the rumors, to say, hey.
Yeah, because that's what I did first. I tried to, poke around the message boards to see, okay, what's the rumor mill saying? There was nothing from the rumor mill.
I dove in over at fog.net. I was trying to see what our guy Michael Swain had to say, and he'll join us tomorrow for Jayhawk Weekly. And there wasn't anything because, nothing firm to report. Michael, outstanding journalist as well as radio guest. And people were saying, hey, Swain, what's going on? Like, what do you know? What do you know? And he said, guys, if I told you everything I am hearing as I hear it, I would have contradicted myself double-digit times already. Like, there's just a lot of information. And it started to get really real yesterday. It felt like, oh, shoot, I was ready for the bad news. And then Lance Leipold tweets, our guys are back on campus tomorrow. Looking forward to 2024. Let's get after it. And, okay, sigh of relief. It was reported by Matt Zenitz of On3. Hey, Leipold staying at KU, etc. And then footballscoop.com reported not only was Leipold a legitimate candidate, he was offered the job. It wasn't just like, yeah, no, we wanted to feel you out, see what it was like, but we're going in a different direction. Football Scoop, which doesn't do the agent thing. They don't do the Pete Thamel, Adam Schefter, like you can tell that an agent wrote this story kind of thing. They're just telling you the facts. They've done that for a long time. They said Leipold was offered the job, and he turned it down, and it's going to stay at KU.
So to review, a school entering what we are probably considering the Power 2, a school that is going to be in one of the two best football conferences in the country, a school that just played for a national championship, went to the head coach of football at Kansas and said, we would like to give you the job. And the head coach at Kansas says, nah, I'm good here at Kansas. That really can't be understated what a big deal that is.
I will say this, and I love Lance Leipold, and I know it's just the business too, but if he had gotten it written in his last contract that it's time to tear down the stadium and build a new one, and you've got to do it post haste, and then bolted right after they started demolishing the stadium, that would have been an all-time gut punch for KU. So I'm happy Leipold's around. I'm happy that Kleiman, too, is still staying at K-State. He got in front of it quickly and said, nah, I'm staying at K-State, man. And I get it. Like, I don't think jobs in those two conferences, SEC and Big Ten, are all they're cracked up to be because the pressure is insane. The money is better, sure, but also the expectations are different. They're harder, and the leash is way shorter than you're getting at a KU, a K-State, and Iowa State.
Yeah.
So Washington ends up hiring Jed Fish instead, who spoke to his players in Arizona for 3 minutes and bolted. Not a great situation there. No one feels all that good about Jed Fish. And he's going to be at Washington for 2 or 3 years because he's never anywhere longer than that. And then he'll probably go replace Billy Napier at Florida because I guess that's his dream job, is to go coach at Florida. That's what Jason Scheer reported. Best of luck to Washington and to Jed Fish. For the Kansas perspective here, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. And I know Michael will talk to us about this tomorrow when we have Jayhawk Weekly. But if you're Kansas, you know what this should be telling you right off the rip? We've got to keep this momentum going, not just on the field. I have no worries about that. The KU is going to keep being, in contention for bowls, in contention for better bowl games going forward. I believe in that. Like the NIL, it's got to keep getting better. The facilities, they've got to stay on the cutting edge. You have got to still be at the forefront of this arms race because it's not going to end. And at some point, whether it's later this offseason, if Harbaugh leaves, Michigan's going to have to go find someone. And whoever they hire, their school's going to have to go find someone. And next year, there will be more openings. This is not the last time this is going to happen.
No.
So you've got to stay at the forefront to make sure you're telling your staff, your players, your head coach, we're committed to this working. We're going to keep making it work for you. We'll keep giving you raises and extensions. We'll make this work. Worked out this time. I'm glad. Got to keep it going, though.
Yeah, because, it was pretty obvious, I think, as soon as Nick Saban retired, I think every college coach in America was on the phone to their agent saying, I'm going to get a raise out of this one way or another.
Yep.
I'm one way or another. This coaching carousel is going to spin in such a way that I am going to get a raise. Whether I stay in my current job or take a new one, I'm going to make more money next year than I did this year. Thank you, Nick Saban. Your final parting gift to all the coaches whose asses you've kicked over the years is to get them all raises. And it is, you're right, not done spinning yet either. Like, the Michigan job would be an extremely attractive job. Never mind the program that just played for a national championship. There's the program that just won the national championship. And it's not just any program that just won the national championship. It's Michigan. Mm-hmm. It's the winningest program in college football history, with a tremendous amount of momentum as the best program in one of the two best conferences in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's going to be an attractive job. And if Michigan's athletic director calls a 785 number, there are going to be some conversations.
Yep.
Like Chris Kleiman or Lance Leipold would listen. 100% they would listen. Just like Matt Campbell at Iowa State would listen. Because, yes, it is unequivocally great for Kansas and Kansas State that Chris Kleiman and Lance Leipold are, as of today, still in their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. It's a symbol of what Kansas and Kansas State have built and a symbol of the relationship that those coaches have with their athletic directors. Flip side of this, Arizona entering the Big 12 next year. That is a team that is appearing in some preseason top 10s with a quarterback back, with some star skill players coming back, with as much momentum as any program in the country that didn't just win a national championship, preseason top 10, and that wasn't enough to keep their coach.
Everyone said Washington was going to be in severe danger when they lost DeBoer, with so many guys who are graduating, leaving for the NFL draft, transferring to follow him or to go elsewhere, etc. Here's the thing, how this often works now. There's going to be plenty of players who are going to try to follow Jed Fish. And you know what Arizona had this past year, Dan? A quarterback.
Yeah.
You know what Washington needs?
Yeah, because Will Rogers hit the portal. Yeah. I said they had their quarterback. Will Rogers hit the portal like 24 hours after DeBoer left. Not even that long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they need a quarterback.
You know what they could use? Playmakers at receiver. You know what Arizona had this year?
Tetror McMillan.
Yeah, playmakers at receiver. I feel bad for Arizona. I do. I feel really, really bad for them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to lose a lot to the portal, and I don't think Arizona can command a head coach with the kind of cachet that Washington can. And I know that because Jed Fish was a laughingstock hire. It was like, you're hiring the dude who's a flame-out NFL OC and college OC who's never stayed anywhere for more than 18 months. That's who you're hiring. And now you got to do it again. You got to go hire a coordinator or a G5 coach, and it's a nasty cycle. I feel for him. I really do.
Yeah, that's a tough beat for Arizona, no doubt about it. Let's stay with our college football headlines here as we continue on our 5A Sports Talk headlines. Today was the deadline for players to decide whether or not they are going to the draft, the NFL draft. Caleb Williams, quarterback at USC, made his long-awaited decision. It is not a surprise. He is declaring for the 2024 NFL draft. All that nonsense about, well, he doesn't want to play for Chicago or he's got a list of teams, blah, blah, blah. No, that did not dissuade him. He has declared officially for the 2024 NFL draft, where he will, in all likelihood, be the number 1 overall pick. J.J. McCarthy also going to the NFL. There was some thought that maybe he would decide to stay in school, as at best the number 4 quarterback prospect coming out of the draft, and that's at best.
Yeah.
And that might be overselling JJ McCarthy a little bit. But he did also over the weekend declare for the NFL draft. Lots of Michigan players are declaring. Blake Corum, their star running back, did the same. So did
Roman Wilson,
their best wide receiver. Junior Colson, star linebacker, also declaring for the draft. So those are the big ones as today is decision day. And by the end of today, we'll know who's coming back and who's not.
The Caleb Williams thing, that was a no-brainer. I mean, he's the best prospect in football. There's no doubt about that. JJ McCarthy is a fascinating case. I can't envision him as an NFL MVP. I don't really see him as an all-pro. But if you gave me almost any other outcome, I could at least envision it being a possibility. Like, could you see him as the quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team? Like, if he hits what, his maximum physical abilities are?
Like the maximum physical abilities for him, it looks a little like Josh Allen. Not like he's not as big as Josh Allen, but like the tools are Allen-ish to me.
I could see him being a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I could see him being, not that they're the same kind of player, but like an Andy Dalton career where you start for a long time and you probably never get a lot of fanfare, but you win a lot of games. I could see him as Gardner Minshew, where and again, different kinds of players, but a similar type of career where maybe you get a chance, doesn't work out, but you could be a backup for 15 years. I could see him getting 3 years in the NFL, and then he's going to go play for the Birmingham Stallions, too. Like, yes. I could very easily see that
because
well.
Who had similar traits to Josh Allen? Paxton Lynch.
Yeah. Who is not even in the UFL anymore. He didn't even make it there. He got benched like 3 weeks in.
Nah, I think he's got a real job now.
So, the McCarthy one's interesting, but again, like, if Harbaugh's going to leave and with nothing left to prove in college, why wouldn't you go? Seriously. I mean, it seems pretty obvious why you would strike while the iron is hot. Your value will never be higher.
Yeah. And speaking of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh today interviewed with the Los Angeles Chargers. The first interview of what might be a couple that he takes in this head coach hiring cycle.
He did play for the Chargers for 2 years.
Yes, he did.
I think it was 99, 2000, if I'm not mistaken.
Backed up Ryan Leaf.
Ooh, what a career. So he's got a past relationship with the Spanos family, which could be a benefit because you know them, you know the organization at least a little bit, even though things have changed over time. The downside is the Spanos family.
Yes.
And maybe things haven't changed all that much, which would lead me to think I don't want to be with the Chargers.
So it'll be interesting to see what Michigan does at quarterback. Like, do they go into the portal? Because Ohio State is somehow, other than Marvin Harrison Jr., bringing back everybody.
And got better at running back.
Yes, improved at running back with Quinshon Judkins, and I would argue they improved at quarterback with Will Howard. So
I would agree with that.
Ohio State is like going all in on, we are righting all of the wrongs of the last 3 years next year. We are getting our revenge on the Michigan Wolverines after they lose all of these seniors. So I wonder if Michigan says, well, and it may depend on who their coach is, do they lay in the cut and say, okay, it'll be fine. We'll take a development year and we'll develop our next quarterback. Or do they say, no, we got to go get a guy. We got to go drop a bag at Noah Fafita's front door and get him out of Arizona. Keep him from going to Washington.
That would be wild. That would be pretty incredible. Or you just run the wing tee with Alex Orji.
Could do that too.
I would be so in for that. Harbaugh's got to leave. I'm not going to tell Jim Harbaugh what to do, but if you were ever going to make the jump one more time, this is the time.
Yes. There are no more worlds left to conquer for Jim Harbaugh at the college level.
You've won the national championship. You've had this incredible team. Who knows what the NCAA is going to do and come down on you. You got to go. Like, if it's not happening this year, I don't think it's ever going to happen again. Next headline for me on today's 580 Sports Talk headline. Should we get to this week's AP college basketball rankings?
Let's do it.
Let's start on the men's side of things. KU is number 3 in the nation again. KU got 3 first-place votes. The Jayhawks lost to UCF this past week.
Got to rank somebody.
Apparently so.
Everybody lost to somebody good except for the new number 1.
Which is the Connecticut Huskies. The first time they've been number 1 since 2009.
Which may amuse you if you recall that they've won 3 national championships between 2009 and now. And they were never, not once, in that spell, ranked number 1 in the country.
Yeah, that's remarkable. That really is unbelievable. So they jump up from 4 to 1. Purdue falls 1 spot to number 2. KU remains 3rd Nice. North Carolina is 4th. UNC also got a first place vote this week.
Yeah, they might be legit good.
Yeah.
They're not losing anybody. I know the ACC isn't awesome, but they're handling their business. They may be legitimately very good.
Nice to have a starting center who has an AARP membership card in Armando Bacot as well. Houston only dropped 3 spots despite losing twice this week. Not bad losses. Iowa State on the road. TCU, I think, is good.
And both like at the buzzer, essentially.
Yeah. So Houston's 5th. Tennessee drops 1 spot to 6th. They lost to Mississippi State this week. Duke is up to 7. Kentucky 8. Baylor, your next Big 12 team, they are 9th. Memphis up to 10. Memphis dropped 112 points on Wichita State yesterday.
That game was like 21-20 5 minutes in. It was ridiculous, the level of scoring. Both teams were just making shots at a really, really high level, and Memphis never stopped. Wichita State slowed down because that's what usually happens, and Memphis just didn't.
Yeah, your other Big 12 teams or future Big 12 teams in the rankings, Arizona dropped 4 spots. They're number 12 this week. They join the league next year. Oklahoma dropped 6. They're 15th now. They're getting closer and closer to a more accurate rating, I think, for them. TCU all the way into the poll. They went from unranked to 19th. BYU down again. They're 20th this week. Iowa State and Texas Tech both in the poll, 24 and 25. And that means that of the 25 teams ranked this week, 8 of them, almost a third of the poll, comes from the Big 12. And if you want to factor in a future member, that is 9 teams in next year's Big 12 in the top 25.
It's just wild, the disparity between how the pollsters see it and how the computers see things so far. Like KU's 18th in the Ken Palm.
Yeah.
And they're number 3 in the country. You said Arizona dropped to 12. They're number 2 in the Ken Palm.
Mm-hmm.
So, nobody can agree on anything. And with the disparity in results, the strange results that we've seen to this point, that's not terribly surprising. But yeah, 8 of the top 25, conspicuous by their absence in this week's poll. Gonzaga, unranked for the first time since 2016.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, they lost to Santa Clara this past week.
They don't have like a great player. When was the last time you could say that about Gonzaga?
Not any time that I can remember. By the way, quick interjection here. This is extremely significant for the Buffalo Bills. Terrell Bernard is being carted off the field. He stepped into a big role with Matt Milano going down for the season earlier in the year. He has been tremendous this season. 143 tackles, 6.5 sacks, has been playing damn near every snap for them. He is being carted off, towel on his head right now. Ugly scene for the Bills. That is a big deal. Yeah,
I couldn't tell. I thought maybe he just slammed his head on the turf and was worried about that, but he did land a little awkwardly on his leg, it looked like. And that means now that the Bills are down their 4 best linebackers and their 3 best cornerbacks.
Wow. Jeez, that's rough. Continuing on, by the way, with our latest 580 Sports Talk headline, in the women's AP Top 25 poll this week, your top 5, South Carolina, they're undefeated. They're the unanimous number 1. Iowa and Caitlin Clark 2. Colorado up to 3. NC State's 4th. UCLA's 5th. Here's where the interest begins. Number 7, the Kansas State Wildcats. The Midi Cats. We're going to hear from Jeff Midi coming up at the top of the hour at 6 o'clock. His program, 17-1, 7th in the nation this week. What a year it has been for Aoka Lee and the Cats.
One of the best starts in program history. And when we had Tim Fitzgerald on Wednesday's show, he said he thinks this might be the best K-State women's team there's ever been. And they've had some good teams. They've had some good runs. They've had obviously some great players. But tip to tail, this is as good a K-State women's team as has ever been. They had a great crowd Saturday for their home game against Texas. Even with the gnarly weather, they had a super crowd. So that was really awesome to see. And people are really backing this women's team.
I thought you said Gonzaga was unranked. The Gonzaga women are 17th this week.
How about that?
That is unfair to be really good in both. They don't have football, I guess, so it all evens out.
UConn, man. They're
yeah. No kidding. No kidding. Any other headlines for you today?
No, I think we can call it there.
Well, let's take a time out then. When we come back on the other side of this break, we've got more from Wild Card Weekend and more from this Bills-Steelers game, which is at least gotten a little bit interesting. We'll break it down next on 580 Sports Talk. This is apropos of nothing, but I just saw it come across my Twitter and I need to share it with you. I am going to give you the concept. I'm going to give you a concept here, and you're going to have to tell me which college basketball coach said this. Okay?
Okay.
The belief that yelling at referees during a game is cheating.
Yelling at referees during a game is cheating.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The answer is going to be really funny.
It sounds like a Scott Drew thing. But
that's a great guess.
He kind of say with like a glint in his eye, like he would say it and only like kind of partly mean it.
That's a really good guess, but unfortunately, it is not the correct answer.
You got me.
Rick Pitino.
Oh no.
Rick Pitino said today, and this was shared on CBS Sportsnet, quote, "I don't yell at officials during the game. This is going to sound absolutely berserk. I think it's a form of cheating when you're trying to get calls on every play and cursing at referees and inciting the crowd. You're trying to get calls. I don't believe in that."
That's funny. He did have one of the great sound bites of the year, though, when they were asking him about
yeah.
They asked him about moral victories. He said, "No, man, I bleeping want to kill myself."
He has been on one for a while now.
I want to go out in the snow and die of frostbite. I might be able to pull that clip up.
I think make sure you grab an edited one.
No, I do. I don't have the profanity version. Here,
okay.
But I'm almost certain that I've got the clip here. I want to make sure I top. But yeah, right here. That's how losing makes Rick Pitino feel.
We got to clip that and save that as a drop. That's really good. Well, Packers lost to the Niners. I want to kill myself. Show them in the river, get frostbite. That's unbelievable. He is slimy, but a character.
Yes.
College basketball needs more Rick Pitino.
We don't have a lot of them left. Like
no.
we don't have a lot of like the old guard left where there was like a real personality there.
Yeah.
For all of Rick's flaws and foibles, which are plentiful, and we don't need to go over them all here. Just do your Googles. He is absolutely a character. Like, he's absolutely like a one of one. Like, there's only one coach like him. A lot of coaches just run together.
Yeah.
Not this guy. Like, Rick Pitino is distinctly Rick Pitino.
Yeah. I love Pitino. I'm glad he's back. We missed him. We missed him in college basketball.
Big time college basketball. Yeah, for sure.
Right now, going on at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York, the Buffalo Bills and Pittsburgh Steelers. Did the Steelers just kick?
Yes. Steelers kicked a field goal, cut it to 21-10 with about 10 minutes left in the third. That's optimistic.
Yeah.
I know it was 4th and 9 from like the 30, but you think you got 2 more scoring drives in you?
See, okay, but that goes back to the point you made right before the half. Why are you just wasting clock and not taking the time out and being aggressive, showing that you don't believe in your offense? Mm-hmm. But now you're going to play the conservative game again with the belief that you're going to score 2 more times, cutting a 2-score game to a 2-score game.
And the Bills' defense is decimated by injury right now. Decimated. Like, you got to attack it. You got to think you can maybe pick up a 4th and 9 with a throw over the middle, because the Bills are playing like me at linebacker.
They're
going to be
I am confused.
They're going to be looking for street free agents at linebacker next week.
Yeah.
If Terrell Bernard is hurt bad. And Balin Spector went out earlier this game and hasn't returned. So, I don't know. The other part, too, is you have to stop Josh Allen.
Good luck.
Yeah. They did so well in the first half.
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know how much I believe in that. The concept of like belief in your team, that's been a big theme on the show today. Of the teams left, let's assume the Bills win. Okay, let's just assume they win. Of the teams that remain, including both who are alive tonight, how many teams do you feel like have that? Actually have that feeling that, yes, we have what it takes to go win a Super Bowl. I think there's only one team that doesn't have it.
Is that Houston? Or
no? I was going to say I think Houston definitely does because I think very much are playing the why not us card. I think D'Amico Ryans is playing that, and
but
I mean, yeah, I get it.
I don't know if that's real belief.
Okay.
I respectfully, I don't think why not us is real belief. Like that's like, hey, they play the games. We may as well show up and try hard. Like, why not y'all? Because y'all went 10-7 and won a lousy division, and you've got to go on the road now with your rookie quarterback in the playoffs against more experienced competition.
All right.
That's why not y'all.
I can understand that. I can see where you're coming from. My answer is going to be Philadelphia.
Yeah, they definitely have we'd like to clock out. We'd like to.
Devontae Smith banged up. No A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts. The report today that he has been frustrated with the offense's direction.
Yeah, they do. They feel like they're sowing the seeds for some dissent.
Well, I mentioned it that we reserved the right to do this when we did our picks on Friday's show for the weekend. Do you have any desire to change your pick of Buccaneers +3 tonight?
No. I still think they're going to win the game. I think they got more juice, and I think they're going to win the game. I'm growing concerned about Buffalo 10.5.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, Buffalo's going to score at least one more. Is Pittsburgh getting 18? I don't think they're getting 18.
For what it's worth, right now over at the FanDuel book, it's 14.5.
Yeah.
So I
don't know. They are the Bills. Like we spent all season up until like the last month watching the Bills and thinking, well, they're going to find a way to mess this up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was other teams finding ways to mess it up more than they did.
Yeah.
For a solid month.
I mean, this is a Bills team that won by 6 over the Patriots at home, almost gagged one away right before Christmas against the Chargers. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible. Steelers are going to play hard to the very end here. That's for sure. But I don't know. This Bills team is so banged up. They were banged up going into the first meeting with the Chiefs at Arrowhead. They're even more injured now. I kind of like the matchup for Kansas City. You don't like it because it's Josh Allen, and as much as he's a wild card that can send your team going south quickly with a couple of bad plays, he's also got physical traits that, you just can't find anywhere else. He also just got stopped on a QB sneak again. How are they so bad at getting him across the line on 3rd and 4th and 1?
I just saw the end of the second down play. What in the world, man?
Surprise!
It's like I'm watching mine on like 0.9 speed.
Oh, they've got a 4th down coming up.
That is a terrible, they're bad at running the quarterback sneak with Josh Allen. That should not be a thing that exists.
Can I offer you okay, I think they got it. Can I offer you another thing that makes me mad about semantics that is very just typically me?
Sure.
The tush push, the brotherly shove, that's not a quarterback sneak. There's nothing sneaky about it. Quarterback sneak, the disguise, the illusion is in the name.
Right.
Sneak. The Bills, they don't do it the same way, but it's at least still a sneak because instead of going right into the butt of your center, Allen tries to go off guard to the left with it every time. I'd probably go right once in a while, but still. Like, they at least are trying to be sneaky with it. You just line up 11 dudes all within 7 feet of each other and push forward. That's not a sneak. I am officially declaring and begging for people to stop calling that a quarterback sneak because it's not sneaky. Everyone knows what you're doing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Words
should matter. Have some standards, people. God. We're going to get to a timeout when we come back. Some final thoughts on Dolphins versus Chiefs from this weekend. A dominant win for Kansas City. That's coming up on the other side of this break. This is 580 Sports Talk. Favorite Dell the Funky Homo Sapien track?
This one.
Dell rules. Shout out to Deltron 3030, one of my favorite projects of all time. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk with you up until the top of the hour when we'll send things off to Manhattan and the Jeff Mitty Show. And following the hour with the coach of the number 7 ranked team in women's college basketball, the Kansas State Wildcats, we'll send you out to Westwood 1 for coverage of Buccaneers versus Eagles in the final game of Wild Card Weekend. You can hear that right here on your home for, well, it is the sports voice of Kansas, your home for all things NFL playoffs, 580 WIBW. Don't forget that coming up on Friday, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook. It opens up on Friday at Prairie Band Casino and Resort just north of the capital city in Mayetta, about 20 minutes north or so up 75 Highway. And while we will be there Saturday from 2 until 4, or pardon me, we'll be there Friday from 2 until 4, not Saturday. Come on Friday to see us, 2 until 4. But stick around because on Saturday will be the Sportsbook's second chance drawing, where you've got a chance to enter a losing ticket from a bet this weekend, put it in the big old drum that they're going to draw from, and your chance to win tickets to see Sporting Kansas City versus Inter Miami at Arrowhead, a chance to see Lionel Messi, tickets, great tickets, by the way, down near the floor for K-State basketball later this season, plus autographed items from Bill Self, Bo Jackson, and Travis Kelce, all available as part of their second chance drawing. It's extremely easy to enter. You've got to go up to the sports book. You have to enter at least a $20 bet. That's the minimum to enter the drawing. If your bet loses, you enter your losing ticket into their drum, and then on Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, they're going to pull it out and find out who the winners will be for all 5 items that are being given away as part of their second chance drawing up at Prairie Band Sportsbook. You must write your name and player ID on the bet slip to be a valid entry. Otherwise, they're not going to know who you are. So very simple. You can go make those bets if you want on Friday while we are up there at Prairie Band for the grand opening of Prairie Band Sportsbook, 12305 150th Road in Mayetta. Very, very excited for that coming up on Friday. Of course, tomorrow is a big day on 580 Sports Talk as well, as the crew extends out from 2 to 3 again. The debut of our pal Spencer Dupuis, the newest member of the 580 Sports Talk crew. He'll join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Welcome to the team, Spencer. Have fun getting up Pontoon Hill tomorrow.
Yeah.
The trick is to slow play that light.
Yep.
And if it's green, then you gun it.
Yeah. When I started in 2017, I started in August, end of August, and I was used to Kansas because I'd been here for 4 years in school already. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to worry about anything like that. Moving from the East Coast, the Eastern Seaboard, the greater DMV area to Kansas in the middle of this snowstorm and winter storm, I would imagine a bit of an adjustment.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Oh my gosh!
So we got to make sure that we don't make him reconsider his life choices. That is only the weather doing that. So
right.
Yes. Join us tomorrow from 2 to 6. Give Spencer a nice welcome. We'll get to know him a little bit. We'll have a lot of fun on tomorrow's show, and we'll start breaking down whatever the playoff matchup is going to be, which I would have said with certainty was going to be the Bills about 20 minutes ago, and I'm still pretty sure it's going to be the Bills.
Yeah.
But, I just saw them convert 3rd and 9. Anyway, moving on.
Bills are up 21-10 on the Steelers. A Steeler defender just got hurt. They're already playing shorthanded without TJ Watt. So we'll see if they can.
Yeah, a lot of injuries. They've already ruled Terrell Bernard out for the rest of the game.
That's tough.
The Bills are getting made. Like I said before the game started, like they don't have the heating surface underneath the turf at Highmark Stadium. So this game, it is like you are like playing on a blacktop.
I imagine the new stadium is going to have that, if I had to guess.
Won't have a roof, so it better have something to heat the field.
No kidding. Final thoughts from Chiefs versus Dolphins this weekend. We got a text from the 785 that says, not a dominant win by the Chiefs. I said, okay. Make 1 or 2 touchdowns instead of field goals. Now that is dominant. And I do agree that my biggest concern coming out of the game in the last couple of meaningful games, throw out the Chargers game, the meaningful wins for the Chiefs in the last couple of weeks, is I would have liked to see better execution finishing drives. A lot of field goals in the last couple of wins for Kansas City. That is something that I think needs to be improved upon going up against whether it's Buffalo or Houston or Baltimore. Got to work on that going forward. That is an important element of the game, and I agree with our texter. but the Chiefs moved the ball at will to get to or near the red zone. Mahomes was pretty darn sharp. They got the running game working to an effective degree. Travis Kelce was good, even with a couple of drops. Rashee Rice had a great game. The defense was as good as it has been all season long. And the Dolphins being awful also contributed to this, but I think that was a very convincing and impressive win for Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the word dominant. Man, I'm glad this guy wasn't grading my senior thesis. I'll tell you what, like there's more than one way to dominate a football game. I think we've gotten so accustomed to the Chiefs dominating via their offense. Their Chiefs dominating because they did score 38 points and they just ran away and hid and they put up a number that the other team wasn't going to get to. But this is a different Chiefs team. And that game on Saturday, that is what dominance looks like for these Chiefs, where they may not be finishing drives like they used to. They may not be putting up the Nintendo offensive numbers like they used to. They held that team to 7 points. Nobody else had done that to that team this season. Nobody else had held them to single figures all year. That was their lowest output yardage. That was their lowest output points of the season. That was dominance. I want to address this text too from the 785 about Juwan Taylor.
Yes, this was a topic that came up on last night's reaction show.
Yes, on Saturday night's reaction show. I am going to defend Juwan Taylor. I think he got hosed on the block in the back. Doug Farrar of USA Today wrote about this on Saturday night, kind of a live blog reaction during the game. Juwan Taylor got pushed into the back of Justin Houston on that touchdown by Rashee Rice. And it looked obvious live. It looked really obvious on the replay. The officials missed the call. Does it surprise you, listener, to learn that the NFL officials may have misinterpreted or missed a call entirely? Juwan Taylor got hosed on that. He didn't do anything wrong. He got pushed into the back of Justin Houston. That was not his fault. That was a bad call. And it is unfortunate that the spotlight again falls on Juwan Taylor for committing a penalty that negates a touchdown. But he got pushed by Zach Seiler into the back of Justin Houston. Justin Houston is out of the play. He's behind the play by the time Taylor makes contact. They didn't need to throw that flag. That was Juwan Taylor being hard done by. Other than that, he was really good. The false start that he committed was as much Creed Humphrey's fault for being off cadence. If you watch the way both guys reacted to that penalty, Taylor thought the snap was coming, and certainly Creed Humphrey reacted like somebody who didn't get the snap off in the appropriate time. So, look, Juwan Taylor has been great this year. Definitely have had some negative moments, but we didn't notice him other than those two plays on Saturday, which means he played a good game outside of those, and I don't think either of those penalties were his fault. So I am defending Juwan Taylor against the allegations from Saturday night. I think he played a really good game on Saturday. I think if he plays to that level and gets a little bit luckier with the flag on the block in the back, then nobody's even thinking about him, because we're not thinking about Donovan Smith on the other side. But that's because we didn't notice him. And that's how we'd prefer our offensive line.
Juwan Taylor, totally exonerated. No wrongdoing.
Yes, correct.
I got to make an edit of that image, that David Perdue graphic. Totally exonerated. We're going to talk some offensive line tomorrow, because I also shared on Saturday's reaction show, I'm not as worried about Juwan Taylor as I am worried about another member of the offensive line. So we'll touch on that a little bit tomorrow. One final time before we get to our last break here. Buffalo kicked another field goal, 14-point game, minute 32 left in the third. I think Buffalo's going to win.
Yeah, I don't think Pittsburgh has two more touchdowns in them unless they've got another big field flipping defense or special teams play.
Two more touchdowns plus stopping Buffalo for the entire fourth quarter. I have my doubts. Let's get to one final timeout. We'll come back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word after this. Final word time here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, what you got?
I'm 37 years old. Maybe you're around my age. Maybe you're a little younger. And maybe you are a fan of the Dallas Cowboys without any connection to the city of Dallas or the team itself other than just a general fondness. Maybe you were my age, and when you were 10, they were the coolest thing on the gridiron, and then you've been a fan ever since. I'm here to tell you that if you are of my generation or younger and you are a Cowboys fan, you can quit. You don't have to do this to yourself, because this is all it's ever going to be. It's 28 years without a conference championship game for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you a chance. There is help. There are 31 other NFL teams out there. There's a whole universe of college football you can throw yourself into instead. You do not have to be on this particular narcotic. You do not have to do this to yourself. Walk away from the Dallas Cowboys, because it's only ever going to be this for the rest of your life.
Am I correct in saying they're one of just 3 teams that haven't done it in that stretch? I think it's just the Browns and the Lions.
I think you're right.
I think it's just those 3. Miami? Has Miami
played in the conference championship since then? I think they did in 92 or 93.
Oh, that was before the Cowboys.
But yeah, that was before the Cowboys.
Okay, so maybe 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone else has done it. Good job, Cowboys. Final word for me, Chiefs, very impressed with their 60 minutes on Saturday. And by the way, speaking of that Cowboys game, shout out to the Packers. Might not last more than one more week, but boy, that was fun beating their brains in yesterday afternoon. That does it for 580 Sports Talk today. Don't forget, we're going to be at Prairie Band coming up on Friday from 2 to 4. Tomorrow, though, we've got a full show 2 to 6 right back here in studio. Debut show for Spencer, the new member of the crew. Can't wait for him to join us. I can't wait to talk to you guys again tomorrow as well. So, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Brzezinski. We'll talk tomorrow at 2 right back here on 580 Sports Talk.